Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome everybody to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It is going to be a fantastic show today. Tonight, we have UFO experiencer, UFO contactee, shall we say, and the founder of the Contact Modalities XPO, Melissa Cain, joining us. Is going to be a fantastic conversation, guys. She'll be joining us for hours 1 and 2. Then, obviously, you know who's in hour 3. Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap-up. Also, Steve Stockton tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries and some UFO and weird news. It's going to be a great show, guys. Let me see who came in first tonight. And it appears that, a courtesy of Race Fan, we got Kitty Catty Whack coming in with the gold tonight. We have Mel, WD-40, get us lubed up for the show, also coming in with the bronze. And we have Race Fan coming in with the bronze. I'm sorry, we got Mel WD-40 with the silver, and then Race Fan with the bronze. Gotta get it right. Also, let's see who else has come on in here. We're gonna have to actually jump right into the show. Let me at least get Roger Murray up here. November 7th, 2006, O'Hare UFO incident, disc-shaped object hovered over gate 17. Let's talk about that tonight. That should be awesome. Let's go ahead and get the podcast side started real quick here. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be a fantastic show. We have UFO experiencer and founder of the Contact Modalities Expo, Melissa Cain, joining us here tonight. Hours 1 and 2, Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap-up. Hour 3, Steve Stockton tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries, UFO and weird news. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives because they're absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, You can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and oh, so much more. We're gonna have a fantastic show tonight. We have UFO experiencer. We'll say contactee as well, and founder of I was right. I think I just okay, and we are back. Yes, so Drew Banky in hour three with Tells and Told Mr. Person, or the After Hours Rabbi Steve Stockton with Tells and Told Mr. Person Mysteries. We're gonna jump right on into the show. We're not going to delay any as we bring up our guest for the evening, Melissa Cain. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Hello, Rob. Good. How are you?
I am doing okay. I'm actually doing better than yesterday. That's all we.
Good.
That's all
Glad to
we.
hear that.
So yeah, you are a friend of a friend of a friend of the show, a friend of a couple of friends of the show, Drew Banky,
Yep.
and also Deb Shakti, the awesome Deb Shakti. If you're watching Deb's, moi, I love you, and we'll be seeing you soon as well. Yeah, so I understand that Deb has come on here multiple times, and we've talked about this Contact Modalities Expo. She actually invited me to come down one time, but I'm way out in California, so it's kind of hard to logistically make that work. But it sounds like an awesome thing. I know Drew Banky. I think he came there to speak last year. Is that correct?
Yep. He was there last May.
Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, and actually, I think I have a graphic for this up here. If you wouldn't mind talking to everybody really quickly about what this is, the Contact Modalities Expo.
Well, basically, it's a conference in the Midwest. It's in southeastern Wisconsin, basically. So it's not far from Chicago. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from Chicago. But I'm born and raised in Chicago. I live in Wisconsin right now. I've been here for 6 years, but we poor Midwesterners have been starved. So you're on the West Coast. You got all the big conferences and going on forever. You got big ones, you got little ones, you got little in between ones. We have to travel far and wide, spending buco bucks just to see any of our heroes in the contact community. So, literally, about a little over a year ago, I had a download to create this expo, and then it was just like boom. I just started working on it, and my whole thought process behind it was I really wanted people to experience these different modalities because my history is they've just changed my life to such a degree, many different types that, and I'm so grateful the experiences and the way it's enriched my life that I wanted to be able to give people the opportunity to sample different modalities, learn different things, see what sticks, see what clicks, see what resonates with them in hopes that they too have the same effect and hopefully, make their life better.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And like I said, it's definitely I want to make it to one of these, and this is next year, so I think I'm going to just put it in my plans to try to make this event because I love Deb so much that I told her that I was going to come, so I have to do it.
I would
So
love you to come, please. Yes, she
yes,
told me about that when she invited you.
for
I'm
for
like,
sure.
what?
Now, as you said, you put this together. You wanted to assemble a lot of the great minds in the field, being that there aren't many events out there in the middle of the country. You have a lot of good names on here. What could a person who attends this expo expect? And let me go ahead, and I have a zoomed in photo here. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these speakers that you have on this list, and what a person could expect going next year to this.
Well, last year and again coming up in 2026, we have Chris Bledsoe headlining the whole thing. I had been bugging him for years, probably about 5 or 6 years, to see if he would just grace us at. I host little retreats too at up in northern Wisconsin, but he finally said yes and showed up last year with his family, and he's coming back again. So, um, I mean, it's going to be amazing. It'll be Chris, his wife Yvonne always comes. This year, Chris Jr., or next year, I should say, Chris Jr. is coming, who really he's never really gone out too much. I think he was at Contact in the Desert last year, and it was the last event. And that was the first time he's ever been out actually being at one of these conferences since those experiences happened to him when he was just a teenager. Emily Bledsoe will be present as well. And hopefully Ryan and Jennifer were there last year. We'll see if they're going to come in 2026 too. Shall I go on?
Yeah, I'm seeing names on here because I understand Jimmy Church is emceeing this here. And I know one thing that I've heard you say in the past about this event is that you want it to be, not your average convention where it's not just individuals getting up there giving speeches, but you also have a lot of other things going on at this expo. So kind of talk about some of that stuff and what a person can expect.
Sure. So, yes, I feel like, you can hear things all day long. I've read all the books, I've watched all the podcasts, I've, listened, taken tons of media, but it's not until you actually experience something for yourself that it really sinks in and starts making the difference, when it's like real. So I really wanted the emphasis on this event to be experiential. I wanted to tap into these like awesome, incredible minds, and then, they'll be up on the big stage, of course, doing what they do best, talking and, for an hour and a half. But then I'm encouraging all of them to do a workshop or two or three or a private sky watch, or, we just put our heads together and just try to think of like really cool things that'll just, just wake them up, light them up. And, a lot of it is, what they do best, Dr. Diane Hennessy, she's on the stage all the time now, ever since the telepathy tapes hit. Well, her and I are talking about a workshop, and I don't know what that's going to be yet, but she's going to be doing something really hands-on with a small group. So the workshops are all small. They're all about 40 people or so, where they really get to know these wonderful teachers, and it's going to be incredible. I'm so excited about this year. Last year was great. This year we're going to do bigger and better.
What would you say was one of the highlight moments from last year's expo, if you had to pick one?
Well, so everybody who was signing up was dying to see Chris do a skywatch, right? So he wanted to be out. Everyone wanted to be outside with Chris doing skywatch. Well, we had skywatch scheduled for one night, which was really stupid. I don't know why. I'm like, hey, I'm in the Midwest in May. It's like rainy season, right? So it was it was raining. It was just the worst night. But we all went into this big, awesome room at this resort. Now, this resort that it's at is this sprawling, beautiful resort that's just in the country, but it's really big and it's just really naturey. It's like embodies Wisconsin. So they must have had a church in this one room because it just had these big arched ceilings and everything, and these big beams. And we all gathered there, and everybody was, kind of like, well, this stinks, and we were doing our best to just get everybody that was going to be outside for the Skywatch for this one event. And Kimberly Porth led this event along with the Bledsoes. And we were chanting and we were doing breath work, and it was like echoing through the ceilings and just reverberating. And then Chris started talking and everyone was just listening. We're all just kind of sitting on the floor, hanging out. To me, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. To me, that was extremely impactful because I think it took a bunch of people that were really feeling, we had people coming from all over the country, not just Midwesterners, really feeling down. It just turned them around because it was just kind of like an unplugged event, kind of off the cuff. So that was really cool. But I mean, for me personally, just being there face to face with all of these amazing people, like I couldn't even believe it. I was like welling up all the time because I just couldn't believe they were here. Everyone had the same mission. We all were just like doing it. And it was really it was great.
And I often talk with Drew Beck. He's here every weekend, so we talk about this a lot, and we get into a lot of consciousness stuff, as we'll be doing with Debs here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
because the energy of the world just needs it right now, and any positivity is a plus. And I named the show "Consciousness and UFOs: Where the Lines Intersect" because in couple reasons why, because I kind of feel like the Modalities Expo is that as well, where consciousness and UFOs intersect, because you definitely deal with both subjects. and you have meditations, things like that that you guys do, along with having UFO researchers speaking on the platform. And then I also feel like it's the perfect description for what this phenomena is, consciousness and UFOs, and we're only beginning to kind of break the surface of what that is. To you, what is consciousness if you were to describe it?
So consciousness itself, to me, and again, I learned about, well, you just learn about it as you go through life, right? A little bit here and there. But back in, it was either 2019 or 2018 at Paula Harris's Star Works convention, USA convention. I used to work for her convention. Grant Cameron was speaking about the contact modalities. He wrote a book called Contact Modalities. And, and then also Ray Hernandez is the person who coined the term contact modalities in his book, Mind of God. And I guess what it is, everyone's been studying these different modalities for decades separately. UFO experiences, ghosts, the ability to remote view and like different psi abilities and telepathy and telekinesis and stuff like that. Near-death experiences, these psychedelic experiences, these journey, plant medicine experiences, and they've been studied separately by experts forever and ever and ever. And now what people are realizing, and these pioneers are showing that, and science is catching up too, is that all of those things are the same thing. They're just wearing different hats. It's all under the umbrella of consciousness. And to me, what consciousness is, I don't know if you want to call it, it's whatever, it's that force or that thing, I don't know, that connects us all. It's God, maybe you can call it, or whatever it is. But to me, it's fundamental. It's what started everything. And we are just little blips. If there's an ocean, we're just little waves, but we're all united because we're all the same ocean, but we're just little waves of that same ocean. And so anyway, now they're starting to study all these modalities because there's similarities in these modalities. They all have similar things. So for instance, any one of these modalities, whether it happens to you by accident or whether you're doing it deliberately, like a breathwork practice, oftentimes you might be visited by a non-human intelligence, some sort of being, whether it's humanoid or whatever you determine it to be, who knows, but it's something. They all usually give you some sort of message too. You receive a message from this intelligence. Oftentimes, it puts you on maybe a little spiritual awakening, and also changes your life and puts it on a different trajectory. And a lot of people will also report, whatever modality it is, that there's some sort of like time space alteration that happens during these very deep experiences. So I guess now it's just, studying them under one umbrella and seeing what comes out of it. But to me, I had my spiritual awakening spontaneously in 2016, and it happened one way. But now that I've, met with so many hundreds of people and I've been involved in a lot of different types of modalities, I see that contact is not a one size fits all type thing. What resonates with me probably may not resonate with somebody else, but there is going to be something that resonates with them that has the same effect.
That is
Long
awesome.
answer.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And obviously being on the presenting end, and then you also have the patronage, the people who come in to view and take part in this expo. What has some of the feedback been from some of the people who have attended?
Oh my goodness. It couldn't have been, it was so surreal for me. So I was like sleep deprived. I was working, I was so nervous about the whole thing, those 3 days. And I was just like running on adrenaline. I was just wanting to make sure everything was okay and everyone was fine. And our presenters who traveled so far to get here and our attendees who traveled so far to get there. And so as the days kept going by, people just kept coming up to me and introducing themselves and giving me hugs. And it was really weird. I didn't really notice it at first. I was just kind of doing it like, well, yeah. And the feedback was amazing. And it was exactly what I had intended. people's minds were blown. It was an incredible growth experience for them. Even the ones that have been to the big conferences, and some of the other ones that have attended those things were just blown away. And what really hit home for me, Rob, was how many of the presenters had interesting, amazing growth experiences. When I heard that, I mean, the attendees, I was just like, oh, thank God, thank God. But then when I started hearing different presenters that had interesting things happen to them, or maybe they had a paradigm shift, whether it was small or large, that's when I knew that it was really, really, effective. And, what I attribute that to is it was built out of pure love. Seriously, it was built out of pure love. It was built out of pure passion and, an intent to serve. And that's what came out of it. That's so lovely.
That's kind of you actually going right kind of where I wanted you to go, because I was going to ask, when you get a group of people like this together, a lot of big names in the field in one place, addressing the phenomena. And the way I feel about it is like I interview a bunch of people, and I always try to take something away from their perspective and see what resonates maybe with the next person that I speak to. When you look at all these people collectively, what seems to be the common goal for everyone, and what is driving them to want to take part in something like this?
I will tell you, every single person, and I was warned, that there's some big, names and maybe egos, and you just got to be able to roll with it and blah blah blah. To me, everyone that we had at this last event and the people that we have coming up, everyone just seems to be on the same page. Like, there wasn't any, well, that person's story is bunk and this person, whatever they're saying, mine's better. It just seemed like everybody was just working together. They were helping each other, helping me. They wanted it to be a success, and they just seemed very selfless. To me, it was really just it was great. It was great because everyone seemed to know they had a mission to put on a great show for these people that came, and they really did. They really did put a wonderful group effort together.
And I always ask, depending, it doesn't even matter. It could be UFO field, it could be cryptids, Bigfoot. I always ask a guest, like, what is your goal in this? What is the end result? What do you want to see come out of this in the end? And so I guess I'll pose that to you, like putting these things on. Obviously, I know what the drive is, but what is your end goal? What would you like to accomplish by the time you put on your last expo?
Okay. So the mission was always, it started small, with these little retreats that I was putting on. And like I said a little earlier, I've been so changed by my experiences and the way I live my life and everything, and raise my kids, and just the way I deal with people. My mission became to help others do that as well. But the primary goal, like the end goal, is to make the world a better place. Because like you said, when we first started talking tonight, things are crazy, right? And I think they're just bubbling up, bubbling up, bubbling up. And I think once people understand our true reality and our true nature, and it starts small, but then, it's like peeling an onion, layer after layer after layer. Once they start to realize who we really are, that's when the change can happen. So I'm very optimistic about our world, believe it or not. A lot of people tell me I'm crazy and maybe not ignorant, naive, but no, I don't think so. I think any person that can change and understand what we're doing here, and how to love one another, really ultimately, one person at a time, and it's just going to spread. It's just going to spread.
And I think, that you're absolutely right with that. And the way I feel and look at it as well is, and it's tough. I mean, you get on here, I'm a pro humanity person at the start, so I
Yep.
love all human beings, right? So
Yes.
when you have this sort of energy, being directed towards us human beings. It does something to me. It affects me in a way that on a personal level. And but looking at the silver lining, here's what I'm seeing. The consciousness, and I've talked to Drew Banky about this previously. Consciousness has taken a backseat to UFOs,
Yeah.
and I think consciousness is actually what the main subject of this. Everything else falls up under this.
Yeah.
Now, I think we may realize that going through a time like we're going through, because I think consciousness is what we need to understand and tap into. And I think, being in a situation like this where we are experiencing the worst that you could ever experience, that consciousness is going to be the thing that brings us out of this.
Exactly. And you know what? In in addition to what you just said, you notice that when people start to have experiences. Now, this wasn't the case with me, and that's why I thought it was so weird, because I had to really work hard to have an experience. I had to work hard. I didn't just have stuff happening to me. I had to work and work and work and work and work and work. But a lot of times people have these experiences following deep trauma, right? That's when stuff starts to show up, or lights in the sky, or they're taken, or whatever the experience is, or they have deep trauma and they go sit in a plant medicine ceremony in search, hoping for truth and healing. That's all consciousness. That's consciousness communicating to us to help. So while we are all going through all this crazy time, like you said, that we deeply take personally what's happening out there, I think the activity via consciousness is just going to get amped up, because we're going to need that, and we have to awaken. Otherwise,
yeah. And when you have this side or that side, right, then you have moments like this that allow you to connect with someone that you may not have normally connected with. And
right.
you figure out at the end of the day that it's consciousness that allows that to happen. And I think it's going to end up being okay. That's why I have to have Deb Shakti come in here in 2 weeks to kind of make us feel better, because that's what it is. But we're actually getting ready to go into our first break of the night here with our guest, Melissa Cain. It's going to be an awesome conversation, guys. Make sure you don't go anywhere. And we're going to answer some questions, see what got Melissa into even doing this. What did she experience first, consciousness or UFOs? You'll have to wait to find out. After the break, right here, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. See you guys back here in just a moment. All right, we are crystal clear, and once again, we're still live. Everyone can see and hear us right now. And because I was a little late, I'm gonna have to hop in here and welcome some more of the people in who came in late here. So give me just a moment here. We think we left off with Roger Murray. So Roger Murray dropping out. Okay, yes. So the O'Hare UFO incident, Roger Murray. Appreciate that. We're gonna definitely talk about that later. I have to mark that down. Let me actually save that. Also, we had Kitty Whack. Who else is in here? We have FAP. Hey, FAP, appreciate you coming on in tonight. We have Star Music Anya. Appreciate you coming on into the show tonight. We have Kurt M. Hey, Kurt M. Thanks for coming on in here. Also, Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Thanks for coming on in here tonight. We appreciate you showing on up to the show. Miss Catherine Jones. Hey, Miss Catherine, saying hello, Mr. Rob G and fans. We appreciate you coming in, Miss Catherine. We have to have you here, and I'm glad you decided to show up here tonight. Who else do we have? We have Cody Eiler. Hey, Cody Eiler. Thanks for coming on in with the cool face emoji with the thumbs up. I like it. That's positivity. Let's get that flowing in here tonight. Let's see, who else do we have? We have Stephen Drysdale. Appreciate you coming on in here tonight as well. Let's see. Kurt M saying, you must be cold in that part of California because Rob G froze. Yeah, I thought we were going to have an issue. I thought it was going to be an issue, but we came right back. So we're good to go. Let's see. Justin R saying, love this channel. Good evening, everyone. Well, we appreciate you, Justin R. Thanks. We just do what we do, and we just try to do what we do. As long as we have conversations to move the needle and positively affect what it is we're doing as human beings, then we're doing our job here. Thanks for letting us know. We appreciate you. Let's see. Who else has shown on up? Who else has snuck in here? Yes, Delilah. Hey, Delilah, with the wavy hand emoji saying, hey, everyone. Thanks for showing up. Andrew Gnomes Trucking. Appreciate you coming on in here tonight, sir. It is an honor. Who else do we got here? We got moving down the list now. Okay, we got Roland Dietz. Roland Dietz. That sounds like a new name. Appreciate you coming on in. No such thing as bad energy. I don't know. It's a yin and yang, and we'll talk about that tonight too. You go ahead and mark that one as well. Let's see. Paramarvelous. Appreciate you coming on in here, sir. And dropping all Melissa's links in the chat like an awesome person. Just always does that. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
Who else do we have? Magnetic is what? Where you been, buddy? Surprised YouTube didn't see that it's flooding the chat. Yeah, I guess. Well, he's a mod. That's why Magnetic is. Appreciate you coming on in. I should bestow mod status on you too, Magneticus. I'll make sure to do that, sir. I don't know why you're not a mod in here yet. Tamad, man, appreciate you coming on in here. Thanks for showing up. Let's see. Depthnos, appreciate you coming on in. John Wayne Todd spoke about UFOs being demons back in the 1970s. Different perspectives. I have an outlook on all that. Maybe we'll talk about that too later. Let's see. Let me actually mark that one. Okay. And see, we got about a couple minutes. Good. So let's see. Who else do we have coming in here? Are we current? I think we are. Okay, we got Francis Allen saying hi, guys. Appreciate you coming on in, Francis. And if we could, we'll just say this early. If you guys wouldn't mind, since we have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, let's just take a moment. If you look right under the screen, there is a thumbs up, thumbs down button. If you're here on YouTube, we'd appreciate you hitting one or the other, just kind of letting us know how you feel about the show. So YouTube will know as well. And if you're watching from X, which I know some of you might be, please hit that little heart symbol below the video and let us know that you liked it. Hit that little repost button too and share it with friends. That would be awesome. We got Lawler Johnson coming in saying first live show. What? Appreciate you coming on in, Lawler. This is the After Hours radio show, which you'll catch this particular show Saturdays and Sundays, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on Spaced Out Radio. We also have Dave Scott Monday through Friday, running the Woo Train from 9 p.m. until midnight Pacific time. And we have Lee Strauss Element 115 Fridays at 8 p.m. Pacific. Dirty Filth with Cryptic Cartoons. He did one earlier today, Saturdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. So the whole point of saying all that is that 7 days a week you can find something awesome right here on Space Out Radio. So we would definitely appreciate you coming in, hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, so you know next time we go live. And yeah, appreciate you coming on in, Lawler. Let's see, who else do we have out there? I think we may be current now. I think we definitely are current. Okay. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are back on the back half of the first hour. We are in the building with Melissa Cain, who is a UFO experiencer, also founder of Contact Modalities XPO. You should attend. If you're in the vicinity, make sure you could show up, and there's going to be a lot of great names there, as you see. Jimmy Church MC and Chris Bledsoe, amongst a bunch of other individuals. A lot of great things to do. If you miss any of the conversation tonight, obviously you can catch it youtube.com/Space Out Radio. Hop in the archives because they are absolutely free. So, Melissa, we ended the last segment there, and I was posing the question saying, okay, let's see, for consciousness in UFOs, what did you experience first? If you wouldn't mind kind of going into any experiences you may have had, which even led you up to thinking about creating this Contact Modalities Expo.
Okay, sure. So really, well, I'll go back. I'll go back because I think this is was something speaking to me. It was consciousness, definitely. But when I was a child, I between ages of 7 years old and about 12, something like that, I used to have these experiences where it'd be like a nightmare. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. But what I would be seeing as I'm awake, I'm not seeing, my eyes are open, but I'm not seeing anything in my room. What I'm seeing in front of my face is like the snow from an old TV, when you in between channels, it'd be like that staticky snow looking. And I would
Yep.
see that. And then I would see in the middle of it a horizontal line that was like a heartbeat line. And when the feeling I would have, and then on the sides of my peripheral vision, there'd be these visions flying by me. And as that line was nice and straight, I would feel safe, like everything was okay. But then it would start to like crinkle up like that. And somehow it was tied to my breath. And I felt like I was going to die. So I was up, seeing this, trying to walk around, screaming for my mom and dad. They'd come and grab me and bring me to bed. And anyway, long story short, this went on recurring like all the time for many years and never knew what it was, but it was absolutely terrifying. And I mean, it was one of those feelings where you're dissociated, like I'm out of my body. Like I didn't feel like I was in my body. I didn't know where I was, whatever. So then it stopped. And then, life went on, everything went on just kind of normal. Grew up, went to school, did my thing, in my 20s, I moved to downtown Chicago, lived downtown, had a job in radio advertising, I was having a ball, having a great time, met my husband, had kids, got married, everything's just kind of fine. All of a sudden in 2016, we're living in the suburbs now, got little kids around, and we're watching cable television. And he was flipping through the channels, and one of those documentaries come up, of UFO documentary. I've seen, on and off my whole life, kind of. By the way, I've always had a vague interest in UFOs because my grandparents used to have major sightings, like daytime, in huge silver craft, nighttime sightings, huge mother crafts with lights, but they weren't into it. They would just tell me, oh yeah, well, we saw this thing and wow, it was pretty cool, pretty neat. So I kind of knew about these things and I was interested in them. I thought it was kind of cool. So in 2016, I asked my husband, I'm like, oh, stop on that channel. I want to show Jameson, my son, a UFO video. Something clicked in me. I don't know what it was. I don't know the specifics. It's completely unremarkable. But I went back into our den immediately and I started getting on social media and looking up. I'm like, are people still seeing UFO? What is going on in the UFO world? And I was hooked. From that moment until today, that's all I live, breathe, movie watch, book read, television. I don't do anything else. My entertainment is that. And what's interesting is the first things I saw, the first like articles or maybe Facebook posts, whatever it was all about Stephen Greer. It was all about Dr. Stephen Greer and his movie Sirius. And I remember not really wanting to like invest an hour and a half of my life at that moment in the movie Sirius, but it just kept coming at me. So I'm like, okay, so I watched it like that night or maybe the next day. I was absolutely blown away. I could not believe, never heard of CE5, could not believe that people were actually able to connect. I mean, I was like, holy, made my husband watch it the next day. He was like, wow, that's pretty cool. He's just kind of like, oh, whatever. He's not like me at all. Kind of a skeptic, but he's come a long way. So that's where my awakening went into. It went into the area of CE5 exclusively. So I started reaching out to like everybody I could see that did that on Facebook. Started learning the protocols, got Dr. Greer's app, started meditating. I never meditated in my life. I don't even know if I even heard of it. I might have heard of it. I never meditated in my life. Learned how to do that. Listening to the crowd. I did this for 8 months. That's why I was telling you earlier that, these people that just have the mothership land in their front yard are so lucky, or I thought they were so lucky, because I had to work. And then finally, after about 8 or 9 months, I was in upstate New York on a camping trip, and I saw my first flashbulb. And so that was the first time I actually saw a UFO after working at it really, really hard.
Wow. And so, just explain what you mean, a flashbulb, a orb. Is that what
Yeah.
you mean?
So like just a boom, gone. So
Okay.
nothing that stays, not those, but the kind that just go
Power.
blast and then they're
Some
gone.
people say they power up, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
A moment like that, right? So, because I myself, I like to take drives, and I'm just one of those guys. So there's a couple of places that I like to go to just think, and it's a lookout point over the city I live in Bakersfield here, and you just see wide open skies here in California. So me, I've been into the subject for a while, and I would go out there all the time, and I'm just like, let me see something. I should be able to see something, and I'm there day after day after day, nothing. So explain how important it is to, for the meditation piece of this, like to make that actual connection. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that really, really want to see something, and they look up and they just don't see anything. What would you recommend that they do?
Yes, I think the meditation thing is key. Again, not for everybody. You're going to have people out there that say, I never meditated a day in my life. And I go out there and they come out, all the time you hear that. But for me, I am a perfect example of somebody that's never saw a ghost, nothing my whole life, just that those dreams, those fast dreams when I was little. But I had to work at it. I mean, work at it. And the meditation, seriously, I've been meditating like constantly since 2016. It wasn't until like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago that I could actually say, hey, I do meditate now. I slowed down that incessant chatter that's constantly just, you have to quiet your brain. You have to quiet yourself. And for me, the way to do that is I had to follow instructions. I was not capable of doing it myself. So the Greer app helped because he gave you steps. He gave you meditations. He told you what your intention you should try to make it be. He told you everything. He had these crop circle tones. So I was really good at following rules. So that's what I did. And eventually it happened. And, but what's really weird, and I thought about this just recently. So I was living in the suburbs of Chicago, and I was surrounded by Midway Airport on one side of me and O'Hare Airport on the other side of me for the most part, right? Never saw anything in the sky for those 8 or 9 months. But it wasn't until I went to upstate New York where the skies were like beautiful. But you know what was going on that whole time that I never connected the dots until years and years later, like, 6 years later. There was all kinds of contact happening inside my house, but I wasn't paying attention to it because I was super fixated on having that UFO shiny light in the sky thing. That's what I wanted. So I look back now, during all this meditation I was doing, I'd have all kinds of flashing lights on and off in my house all the time. I lived in an old house. I thought immediately poo-pooed that, that's just electrical problems. We got an old house, probably need to get some new electrical. I would have compasses that not work some days, and some days they would work in my house. So Dr. Greer's app, I think, has a compass on it, and I had some other compasses. There'd be certain days where the compass would say, I'm facing south, but I know I'm facing north. Then the next day it would fix itself. But then other times, weeks would go by, then the compass would not be working again. Well, I thought it had to be a broken compass. I didn't realize. Then also, one time I had an appliance like blow up, and the appliance fix-it guy who came, he said, I've never seen an appliance like so fried like this, except when a house was struck by lightning. Our house was never struck by lightning. It was never nothing like that. But there were these like electrical phenomena happening all the time. And then the one thing that I do remember going, okay, wait a minute. This is something right now. I was reading something about how sometimes people are able to walk outside down the street and they look up at the street lights and the street lights start turning off, as they
Mm.
walk. So I just had read that in a paragraph in a book. And then like maybe 10 minutes later, I walked over to this window where we have this very annoying street light that like shines right in the window. Boom, it went off. It went, oh, ah! But every time any of these things happened, my ego mind would immediately, oh, that's not it. That's not contact. You're not, but I wasn't paying attention. Now, years later, I pay attention to everything, the most subtle things. And sometimes those are the most beautiful and the most amazing. So I guess that was a super long story to say that everybody can do it. Follow, if you need help, follow instructions that these great teachers, not just Greer, there's a million of them, great teachers give you to do it. But be open to other things. Don't be very rigid minded, because you might find out that you're having contact on a whole other level, but it just doesn't look like you're expecting it to.
That's perfect. I'm glad you explained it that way. And looking at it, because the way it happened for me is I was into this UFO subject. I was hosting this other show, and still hadn't had an experience. I talked to this guy who claimed to be this reptilian channeler, is what he said he was. And he
Okay.
said, and he, he's telling his story, and he's looking at me, and he could tell that maybe I'm not buying everything that he's saying, right? And so he asked me, I guess it gets to him to where he stops in the middle of a sentence, and then he asked me, would you be open to meeting one of these beings? And I was like, yeah, sure, of course I would. Yeah, definitely. And so, he didn't say anything about it after that, but I'd say within 7 days from then, I had a sighting where in my backyard I had 47 objects in the sky at one time. Now,
Oh my God.
for me is that UFO sighting happened first, then I had weird things in the house happen afterwards. And so
Ah,
when that realization hit me, I started thinking back. I'm like, okay, did I have anything previously that I could point to now and say, wow, that might have been something, but there wasn't anything for me. So for you to have,
yep.
the sighting, and then be able to go back and look back and reflect on like incidents that you can now potentially connect to the phenomena, what did that do for you in that moment? Like, how did that change the way you think about the phenomena?
It really, I just, I'm like, dang it. I wish I would have paid more attention. I wish I would have given more credit to those things instead of just fighting it. But you know what? That's what we do as little humans. We do that. We fight it. Here's another example that happened maybe 3 years ago. So now my BFFs are Debs, right? And Kimberly Porth and all these amazing contact workers that I've known. And now we do contact work together. We do CE5 retreats. We do all kinds of cool stuff, right? So those people that are very sensitive and very gifted, they see things all the time. They see like beings, shadow beings, 8-foot tall bird people, vortexes or vortices, whatever the word is. They see things, all the time. So we'd be out at this retreat that I would host once a year out in the North Woods of Wisconsin. Beautiful, beautiful area. And, they're all these senior contact workers or veteran contact workers, they're always talking about that stuff. And I made it my intention for this particular retreat, like, you know what? I want some of that. I'm now at this point, I'm seeing all kinds of lights in the sky all the time. Just walking outside my door, they show up all the time. So that's very commonplace for me at this point. So I told Jeff Sell, who's a veteran contact worker, I said, Jeff, I want to see what you guys see. I want to see like some ground lights or some tree lights or just something, or a vortex. I don't know. Literally, there's a group of 30 of us. We're in the woods at our field site, and so it's darkish. These little pinpoint lights about 2 feet off the ground are showing up for everybody. I'm not the only one. The whole group saw them.
Wow.
What do I immediately say? Oh, it must be some sort of glowworm. immediately I put that out there. Okay. Now, in the back of my head, I'm like, what if it's not a glowworm? I don't even know what a glowworm is, but you know what? I did see one time when I was in southern Indiana. I know that fireflies will have their larvae and they're in like the ground, but this looked totally different. This was like a white light, like whitish blue pinpoint. And then when you walked up to it, it would go out. And then when you stepped back, it would turn back on. And they were in like bundles. And some of these, like Maddie, another veteran contact worker, she's like, oh, I see some of your little pinpoint lights. There's a whole bunch in that tire. And, and we're walking around. But I put it out there immediately to the group that, oh, those were some kind of glowworm. I went back home after the retreat was over and I researched for hours to see if I could find anything in northern Wisconsin that could do that. And there's nothing. There's like some kind of cave in Australia that you can go in underwater. You have to like swim a mile and then you see these blue lights under there. There's nothing. So that, again, another long story. Your ego immediately just knee jerks into telling you it's nothing. It's normal. But I've come a long way in that now I don't default to that. Now my default is, ooh, what could it be? And then I'll see if it's something, normal. But yeah, it's just about being open. It's about being really open. And sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah, you talking about that rational mind is what it's thinking it's something, but that's okay because you kind of should go through that thought process anyway before just jumping to it's something anomalous or extraordinary. So that's actually it, and it's the thing because this is another thing. Like I always feel like the senses that we have as human beings, they're supposed to be used to answer questions like that, right? The senses that we have, which I also call superpowers as well. But what do you think so let me ask you this, especially with the CE5. So you're making this consciousness connection, you figured out how to get all that chatter, get your mind to completely be silent and get into that meditative state. So you contact craft in this instance. Have you ever had any information come along with any of those experiences, or has it just been craft?
I have not. So I've had messages come to me in different ways, like a download of information, in other settings, but not from the craft. No. Other people around me have, and obviously those people that channel the reptilians or that channel like Deb Shakti, the star teachers, or Bashar, or any of the people that channel all that message, I really gobble it up because I feel like that's unfiltered information, that I think it's super credible. But no. So to answer your question, no, I have not had a message like that, like some profound, awesome message, but maybe that'll be my next goal.
See, that's the thing. And I'm there with you. And that's why I asked you, because there's so many people I talk to that they've had these downloads or they've had these direct conversations with extraterrestrials. And I just haven't had that. Right. So I can only ask questions about that. But part of me fears that that's the next step. But I don't know if fear is the right word. But I've had so many different things happen that relate to the phenomena that extraterrestrial, some sort of contact thing definitely seems to be the next thing that is probably going to happen. What do you think about that? Does that, are you afraid of that, or how would you look at, waking up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom and you have this contact event in your hallway?
Okay. So I was just going to tell that story. I automatically tell them no 3 a.m. No, 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 no. And I still I'm still like that. As much as I know that the ones that are around me are benevolent, loving. They're probably part of my spirit guide team. They're all like rooting for me, like, go girl, go. I still don't want them showing up in the flesh in my bedroom at 3 a.m. I still have a lot of that childlike, and I blame those weird nightmares I had as a child. I still have that at night, but during the day, if I'm walking down the street, walking my dog, I would love to have a daytime sighting like that. And I even haven't had a daytime craft sighting either. All of my craft sightings have been at night or dusk. never like a good old fashioned nuts and bolts, cigar or Tic Tac or anything like that.
I gotta share with you. Maybe it could be tonight or some other time. But that sighting I'm telling you about, the 47 objects, it was at 12 in the afternoon. And clear blue sky, not a single cloud in the sky. So and they flew directly overhead, and I got them on film. So
my gosh! Yeah, I definitely have to see that. That is amazing. Now that would be like the Mac Daddy of sightings. Yeah.
But it was one of those moments where, initially, and I'll just briefly tell the story real quick. I was in the house. I was in the studio at my home, and my girl was outside. She was on the phone, I guess, and she came running in there, and she was like, "You should come outside. Something weird." And I'm like, "Well, like what? Like, tell me what?" And she just wouldn't say. She was like, "You should just come outside." So I came outside, and I look up in the sky, and I see this ball of what I think initially are birds, because they're in a ball, and they're kind of just doing this. They're like mosquitoes, like a ball of mosquitoes. Yep. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Oh, those are birds." And she's like, "No." She was like, "I've been watching them, and you can see they have this metallic shine on them." And I stood there for a little longer, and I'm like, "Oh my God." Okay. So I run in the house, and I go get my camera, and I come back out. 30-second time has elapsed. They were probably at the 10 o'clock position in the sky initially. By the time I came out, they were in a formation, almost like a V, almost like birds. And they were flying directly overhead. They were maybe 500 to 1,000 feet in the air. So I'm filming them, and then I'm also looking at them directly. They are these spheres with these black objects sticking out the bottom of each and every one of them. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "What in the world is that?" And so I'm sitting there, and it's going over to maybe about the 1 o'clock position, and they all disappear into thin air, just gone. And I sit there with my girl in the moment. I'm like, "Do you realize what we just saw? Like, do you realize that what that just was?" And it was just that moment of realization that these things are here every day in our skies, and they're just ready for you to see at any time. So it always blows my mind hearing some of the people that say that they haven't seen anything, because it's like they're right up there. All you got to do is look up. But we'll finish that thought, because we're actually at the end of the hour right now with our guest, Melissa Cain, guys, right here at Spaced Out Radio. We'll see you right after the break.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are clear, and we're off camera for 5 minutes. Melissa, I'll see you back here in a moment.
Okay.
All right. Yes. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Space Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. As we go ahead and bring our guest back on stage here, Melissa Cain. And we have about 30 seconds before we come back from radio, guys. Also, remember, this is hour 2. So, this is the hour that we will be posing questions to Melissa. So, any questions that you guys have out there, please put them in caps so we can make sure to tag those and ask her on the back half of this hour. Also, outside of that, if you haven't already done it, please take a moment to go ahead and hit that like button. Let's try to get the likes over 100 for this show. We would totally appreciate it. We're coming back in 2 seconds. Here we go. All right, everyone. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are in After Hour number 2 with our guest here, UFO experiencer and founder of the Contact Modalities XPO, Melissa Cain. It's been awesome conversation so far. Remember, guys, this show is absolutely free. You can find it in our archives as well. So if you missed anything, jump back in time, go back and rewind, watch youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. So getting back into the conversation, Melissa, so let's do, okay, you've had your own experience. You also had the Contact Modalities Expo with all these awesome speakers who are, really coming from a place of research and experience. What have you gathered? If you had to sum it all up, what do you think the phenomena is, or what do you think the purpose of them visiting, and what do you think this is all about? Your idea.
Okay. Well, I just think based on the information I've received from, we all receive information in a lot of different ways, but I feel like the phenomena is our true reality. It's our truth. And I think I feel like our species is very primitive. No offense to us, but I feel like we're just evolving and we are where we are. But I think we're at this pinnacle now, this point where we are all starting to realize who we really are. And that's what's going to make all the difference. So I think the contact is going to increase for everybody on the planet. I think it's been increasing, quite a bit over the last, several decades. And I think these beings or whatever they are, I think they're trying to help us along. I think they really are, because there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, sadness and people are afraid out here on this planet with what's going on. But I think as we work our way through it, I think they're here to help us. But because of free will, they can't really intervene so much. Unless nuclear threat or something like that, where we actually threaten space-time itself.
Yeah. And I'm feeling the same way as well. I mean, sad to say, but it just feels like we're heading towards some sort of climactic situation, and it's just unsure of what that thing is. Being a person that has recently come into this, and let's say recently within the last 10 years, so I consider that recent. But I know for me, when I first got into this, it was really for me back in 2017. I heard a story where they said they retrieved off-world vehicles, and I read that headline, and then I read it again, and I was like, that means something not from Earth. And so
Right.
I started jumping down the rabbit hole. A lot of people give people who are new they have a bad outlook on us newbies, because they feel like we don't know anything about the ufology. You don't study the history. Well, actually, I beg to differ, because that's immediately what I did, was jumped into the history of ufology. And there are some really awesome moments in the history that stand out for me. And you said you too as well. So what were some of those? What was one of the incidents that stands out for you where you were just blown away when you came across that?
Well, yeah, I started like you. I think for most people, it starts in that nuts and bolts area. You just start looking up the old cases, you start learning about the new cases and everything. I feel like, all the regular crash cases or crash retrieval stuff, I mean, that was all very interesting, but it was that like subterranean ET thing, that like underground, civilizations and races. And the reptilian thing really, my husband still will not acknowledge that at all. But I know they are here. They're primary. They were here before we were here. So that kind of stuff, that underwater, in the earth, that kind of stuff really blew my mind when I started reading about it initially. But as the nuts and bolts thing, as you continue to research these things, then you start going into that direction of what the ETs are saying to you, the ETs that we've had in our possession, or the people, the experiencers actually communicate with. And that's, I think, the messages is what took me along and then started that spiritual journey, which is what I ultimately wound up having.
So when you talk about crash retrievals, obviously the most famous one everyone knows is Roswell. Thanks to Stanton Friedman, by the way, because obviously if he didn't do the work that he did, we probably would never know about that. But the one for me that really ticks all the boxes has been like the Ariel School. It's the children's
yes.
contact moments are just so powerful for me, because I always pose the question, why contact children? Like what was the purpose of going to a school to talk to kids about this? When you think about that case, like, what do you take away from that? What's wow about that? Or what would you, if you had to throw an idea out there on why they would contact children over the adults, there's probably a good answer to that, but what would be your answer?
Well, to me, again, yeah. So I was saying earlier how like the channeling information is so unfiltered and really credible. Also, quantum hypnosis information that comes out of that, really credible. I forgot about the children. Yes. Anytime a child delivers that kind of message, why would they? They're not making it up. They're scared out of their wits, and I feel that the ETs, I mean, they should probably go, and they probably do visit many children that we just don't even hear about, but they have to go where the future is, because you have to start planting those seeds young so that they grow up and understand deeply the message, and about, caring for one another, caring for our planet, etc.
And I want to go a little deep here, and this is for me still an ongoing sort of idea because of the moment that we're in. But you try to think why we're in this current moment. Like, how could we be allowing what's happening to happen? Why aren't more people attempting to try to shift what's going on, and why are we purposely being taken through this moment? And I'd done a show, and I brought this up a few shows ago, but I had done a show about a year and a half ago, spring 2024, where I posed a question on what would world powers do in the moment of like an imminent contact event, where they either it happened already or it's about to happen, it's imminent. And I asked the question, would world powers be willing to blur the line of democracy in order to impose like martial law on the citizens for the control narrative, right? Because you would think, a lot of people think that once contact happens, things are going to go crazy. You're going to lose control of the people. The powers that be all of a sudden lose their status and control over the situation. So if they knew of something, and we could take this back to the potential meeting with Eisenhower back in the 50s, that maybe they know something's coming up, and then so they're preparing to set up a climate where they can control the people, prior to this event or something coming to fruition. And you say that on the cusp of a 3-eye atlas, which is still, we don't know exactly what it is, and it just gets weirder by the day.
Yeah.
Like, could you see a place where the powers that be, not wanting to lose their power, would be willing to blur the lines of democracy in order to control, to keep that power? Do you see a world where that's possible?
I see. Well, first of all, so I don't even go there. Okay. I feel like Yes, anything's possible. They are completely insane. They're completely insane. So I think they will try everything. However, I am of the mindset that, and I follow this from Bashar and others that have said this. There are two different timelines happening now. Okay, we're on one timeline, and now there's timeline going this way, and then there's a timeline going this way. And I feel that if you stay in your positive frequency, again, I'm getting woo woo here on you now, if you maintain that high vibe, so to speak, and that positive frequency, I believe you do your own reality. And I've been going through like a reawakening these past several months, and it just feels very true for me that I feel like we all create it. So what you're experiencing right now, we're creating it. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be affected by it. You're observing it, and it's teaching you lessons, and it's changing you. Anyway, it's very deep. So I'm going to stop now, but I feel that anything's possible in this world. I do think that the dark forces will pull out all the stops, but I think it is up to us. And I think that's why we're all accelerating at a super rapid pace. And according to what everybody says, all the the ET messages, we're already there. It's just a matter of getting through these bumpy roads now, but we are on the road to where we're supposed to be, to that fourth dimension or wherever we're going. The good route.
And so good, right? Good. All right. Here's the thing with good. And someone has mentioned this earlier, but there's a yin and a yang, and I'm one who believes that when we think about the universe as a whole, from one end to the other, that there are a lot of consistencies there that we experience here on Earth. So night, day, fire, water,
all the duality.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I would have to think that there would be some element of malevolence out there, right? And so if that's the case, when you look at Three Eye Atlas, if this were to be something alien out of from alien technology derived from, what do you think? What do you think that type of impact would have on individuals here on Earth? Like, what do you think that would look like if it turned out to be something technological with their sights on this planet?
And we and our powers that be admitted it, or
well, I think they wouldn't have a choice in that moment,
right. I think it would be a rough road. Back in the day, I used to not think so. I used to think we're ready for this. We can handle it. I just think that there's going to be a lot of people that won't be able to, at least in this incarnation. But I feel truthfully that we have to, for ourselves. It's like the airplane, when the airplane's going down, you want to get that oxygen and put it on yourself first before you put it on your family, right? Because you have to be okay before you can take other people. So right. I am a firm believer that if we do our own inner work, and I mean in shadow work, ugly work, to learn our lessons, to release those blocks, and to thrive as a positive, loving, compassionate being who understands in their heart the unity that we all are. You can't possibly not love somebody else. You can't possibly not love somebody because they're from another country, from another planet, because they look different. You love them because they are you. So if we stay down that road, and if this message reaches as many people, I mean, it's going to start to ripple. It's going to grow exponentially. We're going to nip that all in the bud. But if this 3-eye Atlas thing, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel it's on more of a vibrational level than something that's going to be out there that's going to be really super obvious and big and bold. But I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, so because the thing is that and this is why Avi Loeb is all over the news right now, because it's like it's not a it's not really a saying that it is something alien technology, but it's just saying that there's always the possibility. Like we know that things are here currently, so it wouldn't be too far off to say that something coming from interstellar space could likely be related to something that we currently are seeing here going on right now. And
True.
so, with that being said, if it were to be this close to us and we're sitting here just, all just thinking everything is love and light, and I just feel like a lot of people, I want it to be love and light because that's just how I am as a person. But, you have to look at the other side of it, because if this thing were to pull up to Earth and it was not love and light, then we'd be in big trouble, because no one has prepared for the event that these beings are coming in and not being, that are not benevolent. So it's just something that I think everyone should think about. But at the end of the day, I would hope that they're here to be friends with us and to enlighten us. I definitely think we are going through an enlightening period right now. And you have to ask yourself, for what though? For is it so we can be friends and go out to the galactic, federation, or whatever a lot of people say, or
Right.
is it just so that we can unite and just prepare for whatever is coming, whether it's malevolent or benevolent, just uniting as a planet and as a species, just to confront whatever, whether it falls on either side.
Right. No, I agree. I don't know. I hear that too about the love and light thing. You can't be all love and light and just keep these blinders on. But if you go deep, like philosophically, and understand that you are creating your own reality. So like right now I'm looking at you and interacting with you, but it's all my creation. And if I understand that I am deeply protected and loved, then I know everything's going to be okay in my world. And because I'm good inside, what I'm projecting out there is good outside. So it's a crazy thought. It's a crazy thought, but um I'm going with it. You want to know why? You want to know why I'm going with that?
Why is that?
Because we're here. We're here to play. We're here to have fun. We're here to thrive. We're here to have compassion and love for one another. And that's what I'm going for. And if I die tomorrow, I want to die a person who's having a good time, trying to help others, trying to serve, and trying to love. And that's it, you know?
Yeah, when I think just me coming from that, looking at both sides, thing. Sometimes I feel bad, coming with the perspective, because I know a lot of people out there just don't want to even entertain the malevolent side. It's like, I don't, I'm happy in doing what I'm doing as a human, and I'm happy in my
Right.
space that I'm in, and I just
Right.
rather not deal with that. But the thing is that, and I've said this to Drew, we go back and forth on this all the time. It's just that if we are in an event where the presence, that when we have this contact moment ends up being malevolent, then all of a sudden you have so many people that didn't prepare for this. So now that the people who did prepare for this now have to take on the people that didn't prepare for it. And it's like, okay, maybe, if we're all coming into this with open mind, maybe everyone could have been at least prepared, or at least, had gone through some thought process on what they would do if something came that was malevolent, because you're talking about family and protecting family, and
Oh, yeah.
that's gonna be a number one thing. So it's just, I think
But you
it's
know what?
just
We have to worry about that regardless. We have to worry about that on our own soil. We have to worry about crazy people harming ourselves and our family. We have to worry about countries. We have to worry about humans, But the messages that come from the ETs, including Bashar, including, I'm using him a lot because I follow his stuff a lot.
Mhm.
Even from Greer, even from anybody else, Lisa Royal, you name it. The ETs that are able to, now they're not saying that there aren't bad ones out there, or at least indifferent, that would just love to just, use us for all of our resources, anything that they need, they'd love to get. But we are protected. We are protected. And you want to know what else?
Yeah,
I'm going to show you something.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see this? This is my pendulum.
Let me
Okay.
bring that up here. Oops. So let me bring that up on stage.
Okay.
Okay.
One of my pendulums. I have several. I have many. Okay. I started using this. I bought this in 2019 at Paula Harris's Star Wars convention in Nevada. And I bought it because I thought it was cool looking. And I realized I could use it as a pendulum. So I've been working with my pendulum for years. And probably the last 2 years, I've really, really developed a relationship with it. I mean, I trust it implicitly. We have people that are appearing at the expo presenting, like Megan from Solar Glow Meditations, who uses dowsing rods. She uses them in the same way you use pendulums. When you have a connection with something like this, it taps into your higher self, ascended masters, other beings. Who knows who comes through? You know, you can find out who comes through. But I've been able to use this so often for so many years that I know it's given me the right answers because I have history. Now I can look back at things that it said and I was like, nah, but it wound up being true. Any of these types of questions that you're asking and talking about right now, the ones that concern me and that keep me up at night, and they do, I'll go straight to my source because this is my intuition. It taps into my intuition. It's the way I can get answers. Other people, you know, like might be able to, you know, hear it in their head or, you know, they might have different ways of doing that. This is mine. And I am told time and time again, if I'm having some sort of scared moment or fear-based time or whatever it is, whether it's about world events, whether it's about something going on, you know, personal in my life, I go to this and it always, always, always reminds me when asked that I am infinitely protected and that I am safe. Infinitely protected and that I am safe. So because I have such a belief in this and whoever it's talking to, I know that. And I've just adopted that because it keeps me going. It keeps me going. And that's what it's all about. Keeping going so that you're strong enough to put that oxygen mask on other people that need it. And whether the comet, whether 3i Atlas has ET tech on it or not, whether it's malevolent stuff happening or positive, even if positive benevolent beings come down, half the world is going to completely freak out and they're going to need us anyway, because their paradigm is going to completely shift. Everything is going to be crumbling down on what they believe in their organized religion and everything else too. So we're going to be there for them. And as long as we continue to do our work with the oxygen mask and keep doing our inner work and you know, understanding that there are dangers and stuff out there, but you keep your eye on the ball, you keep your eye on the positive, you keep your eye on love and source or whatever you want to call it, God, we'll be there to help everyone else as they're, you know, as they think that their ship is sinking.
You know, and I do that as a mental exercise because when I have someone that looks at the phenomena from more of a positive, benevolent perspective, I like to challenge that because I like to hear what the answer to that is. And does that sound, you know, like something that is reasonable? And it does. And it, you know, just believing in being stronger than being the strong person to help the weaker person is sort of what I'm taking away from that. And that makes sense because I think that in a moment that we have catastrophic disclosure, if it just happens tomorrow, that we're going to definitely have to help some people across the line just even wrap their mind around what is actually even happening, just for starters. So
exactly. Do you remember that movie? Did you see the movie Keep Looking Up? Is that what it is? Or Looking
Don't
Up?
Look Up. Yeah.
Oh, Look Up. You remember that end where what's his face, Cutie, was praying as the world was ending, and Jennifer Lawrence, who are the other ones? I don't know, but he was the only one who was just sitting there in prayer as the asteroid or whatever it was hitting, you know, and you know, that's the way it is. You know, you
just
can
kind of out of your control, just like being at peace with what's going on. Yeah. I get that. We're going into our final break here of the night, guys, with Melissa Cain right here, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Right after the break, we're going to get into your questions. I know I have a couple here. Make sure we get more of those in here. Put them in all caps. We'll ask them right after this break. Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. Me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We'll see you right back here after the break. All right, we are crystal clear. And yeah, guys, definitely put in your questions here. Let me see. I know I got a couple here. And Woo Riders DG. Maybe we'll talk about that again in hour 3 with Drew Banky. I know Drew Banky wanted to talk about 3-Eye Atlas. You say 3-Eye Atlas has gotten weird even more. Yeah. And supposedly there's like a companion object with it.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
that just came. And the companion object also does not have a tail on it. And they're unsure on what's going on there. That's why I asked, because if this if Hobby Loeb is even, he's giving it 40%, I think, still right now. But God, if something were to pull up, right here, right now, in a few months, it's like either this is gonna be the best time we ever had, or it's gonna be the worst time we ever had. It's gonna be one of the two. And it's like I think they said March is when it goes closest to Jupiter, I think, goes closest to Earth, I think, at the end of December or something like that. But it kind of deviated from its course too, which was another thing they were looking for, to see if it would deviate from its course when it went around the sun. And it did. It sort of deviated, and it's on a sort of different trajectory.
Yeah.
It's not really much. It isn't too much off from its original, but it still has deviated. And now it has this companion object, which is crazy. And it's like, hopefully it's not what people are saying it is, but then hopefully it is, because I kind of do want to just kick the door open on this and just get it over with. It's like, because how can we now get to that next stage, the post disclosure, if we don't have that moment? We
got to go through the moment. You're right. We got to go through the moment. It's got to come here, whatever it is, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, right? Because I want to. I just think it's a moment where humanity gets a chance to restructure sort of what we have built thus far. Because we're all born into this society. We think it's just supposed to be this way, and it's not. It's not actually. It's not actually.
No.
Yeah,
that's
what I mean?
not our nature. People will say, "Well, it's human nature to be warring and stuff." No. It's always been that way because we've lived this, and you look back 1,000 years and they were living it then. But if you look at the timeline that we've even been a species, it's literally a blip on the radar. So when in 1,000 years, when we look back at that time, we'll be like, oh, that was just a little short time. Seems like an eternity for us because we're living it every day. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm looking forward to it. There's nothing we're going to be able to do about it anyway if it is bad guys. So we're just going to have to help one another and
or you can get to your cave first, before everything else gets to it, and I always recommend that anyway, because just asteroids, there's so many different reasons why you should have a plan. Whether it's something terrestrial here on Earth, world, nuclear warfare, because best believe the powers that be have bunkers that they are going.
Well, they all got them. Yeah, they're still digging them all over. Yeah, exactly.
And when the event, or when the what is it, the SHTF, yes, when the SHTF,
oh yes, yeah,
they're going to lock those doors and they're not going to let you in. Okay, so they have a plan, and it'd be smart for you to have a plan, because who wants to be stuck out here on the surface of, with all nuclear fallout or whatever we might be facing. So it is sad. It is sad to think about, and it's tough to think about, but I think, tough conversations are the ones that move the needle. Just having the conversation,
absolutely. You have to have the conversation.
That you have an idea. Yeah, at least.
For sure. I don't have any bunkers, though. I have no bunker.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I told somebody, I was like, there's so many extensive cave systems here on Earth, which
Oh
people
yeah,
think they're aliens that live down there. Why not, at least know where one is in your vicinity? Just if you had to, for whatever reason, go into one, you may not ever, but
but
what
it's
if you
good
had?
to know. It's good to
Yeah.
prep. I got prep food under in my basement right now. I got 2 batches of prep food from
See,
whatever company it is. So I think about this stuff, but I think about it in a way like, okay, well, does it hurt me to buy this prep food thing? No, I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I'm going to have it. I'm going to feed my kids for at
and
least
I'll
a
tell
little while if the shit hits the fan.
there was a point in time where I did not. I used to watch Doomsday Preppers 10, 15 years ago, and I just was like, that will never happen. What are you guys doing? Like, okay, financial collapse. Okay, this is not going to happen. None of these things. But I was disillusioned until I saw something like the pandemic, and we go through
That's
that, and
it.
in 2 days, the world is crumbled. But here we go. We're coming back right now.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. Space Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We're on the back half of the second hour. We only have like 20 minutes left here with our guest, Melissa Cain, who is a UFO experiencer, also founder of the Contact Modalities Expo, which will be coming up May of next year. Make sure if you're in the vicinity, you guys go check that out. Also, if you miss any of tonight's conversation, you can relive it. It's absolutely free. It's in the archive. youtube.com/the Space Out Radio. And as we go ahead and get into, we had Drew Banky had posted a question. Let's start off with Drew's question here. He said, how did it feel when it hit you that your conference was a success? Manifestation, realization moment.
It felt amazing. It felt surreal. Like I felt like, I literally felt floating, it was amazing, but it was just amazing. It was. But you know what? If I recognize the small little manifestations, that work out, and if you acknowledge them all the time, whether they're, getting a good parking spot, in front of the ball game, or wherever you're at, you acknowledge these little wins. Then a big win happens, and you're just like, yes, thank you. I knew you got my back. Because I don't feel like I did it, even though I did build it on my own. I used my pendulum constantly. I had my team of spirit guides helping me. And I know that sounds bizarre, but it's so true. So
Do you ever speak at your own events as a speaker?
no, I've never spoken at an event. No.
Oh, okay.
On my little retreat, I'll do a little ceremony. Because Drew and his beautiful wife, Ella, inspired my love for ritual and ceremony. Talk about 2 people that do a damn good ceremony. So I do a little ceremony at my retreats, but no, I don't speak at the events.
Yeah. Me and Drew Baker, we're going to connect at some point here. We've been talking about it for a while. I definitely want to experience one of those ceremonies too. So that will be a thing. Now, and actually, let me bring this back up on the screen for everybody. So this is the Contact Modalities Expo that we're talking about here, that Melissa is the founder of. All these great speakers. She's going to have Jimmy Church emceeing this thing, Chris Bledsoe probably doing some awesome C5 stuff, along with the Deb Shakti bringing good energy. And I'm just pointing out people that I do know. A lot of these other people I'm not familiar with, but I'm pretty sure that they're awesome as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be set up to speak. But, you're the conduit, right? So and I tell everybody, everyone has a part to play in disclosure and kind of moving the needle. And it could, you're putting on the event, you're creating the space for all these minds to come together and have this conversation. Do you record this, and are you putting it out as a recorded video for later, or how does that work?
The expo, yeah. So we are having some of the main presentations will be recorded. The keynote presentations will be recorded and will be put on our YouTube channel for everybody to watch.
Okay, so is last year's one up there right now?
No, we didn't record last year.
Okay.
I was like drinking from a fire hose. I had to make sure that I did, the basics. But it was always on the docket to do in 2026.
Is this your second or third?
This one will be upcoming is my second.
Second? Okay.
Yeah, last May was the very, very first.
And maybe we'll talk to you afterwards. I want to see like does the turnout seem to be growing, because it seems like in the public, just the whole idea of what the extraterrestrial presence is here, seems like more people are being open to it. Seems like, a lot of news outlets are now covering it without
Yeah.
the stigma, and it just seems like it's more out there now. And I'm seeing reporters asking really good questions and really seeming like they really want the answers as well. Are you getting that when you look around? What do you think about that, the media
So,
landscape?
yes, we have a lot of people that show up that are just curious because they've been following the New York Times and, these things that have been coming out since 2017. And, but they're not all in, but when they come to an expo like this, so for instance, a wonderful gentleman who lives in LA, or he lives in California. I thought he was in LA, but I don't know where. But he came to my expo and he couldn't believe it. He was curious, knew a little bit. He wanted to dip his toe in. He came to the expo, loves Chris Bledsoe. And then following the expo, he came to my retreat, which was at the end of August, right after that. And he is just like blossoming like a rose. He's just can't just gobbling it all up just from all different directions. And he was one of those people who just, was like, something piqued his interest and he figured he'd check it out. And now he's just like, whoa. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on nowadays. And, when you have like people like Dr. Diane Hennessy, who's a neuropsychologist from Harvard, like these brainiacs, it gives this stuff credibility too. So I have friends that I grew up with. The wife is a doctor in psychology. The husband's an ex-military guy, and he's like a banker now. And he's all into the conspiracy stuff and whatever. But she's not. She thinks he's crazy, and she thinks I'm crazy in a loving way. But they can both come to this expo, because I just was telling him the other day, I'm like, good, Donnie, you can come too and see all the cool stuff that I love. But then Kirsten can sit and talk and listen to Dr. Diane Hennessy, who will speak that language, But, there's so many different people with so many different backgrounds here in this group of presenters that there's really something for everybody. Last year we had Dan Brule, who is like the master of breath work. He's been teaching breath work for 53 years. He's like as big as like a Wim Hof type. He's lived with Osho. He's done it all. He's been in the Tibet in the mountains with the monks, and he's done it all. And he came and did my event because he was kind of curious about it, because I was taking an online course, a breathwork course, and which really, for people that want to learn to meditate or want to have their contact experience heightened, breathwork. That took me to the whole other level. But anyway, he came to this event, and people who followed him, which were kind of like more mainstreamy, kind of self-helpy people, because Dan Brule, Tony Robbins is his client. Dan Brule teaches Olympian swimmers and Olympic athletes. He trains NFL teams and stuff. So he's very much more on the mainstream kind of. So people came that were followers of him, but then they had this whole other world open up to them. UFOs, something that they've never even considered in their life. And now they're seeing how it's not only relevant, but it's probably true. And it's a major thing. So I forgot my point, but
Yeah, when we and actually I know one of our viewers brought this up earlier, Roger Murray, but being that you're from Chicago and we're talking about, one of the big moments in UFO history, obviously, is the UFO sighting at the O'Hare Airport.
Oh, yeah.
Were you there during that time? And do you remember it being part of the news cycle?
Which year was it? Was that in 2006?
Yes.
2006. So yeah, I was in Chicago, and I remember that. This was before my awakening. So while I would have been I captured on the news, and I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. But again, it wasn't that big a deal for me. I was I had just gotten married. I think we were renovating our house. I was like pregnant with my son. So, there was a lot of real life stuff going on at the time. But Sam Moranto, who is in the bottom left of this. He is the director of MUFON for Illinois, the bottom left, and he's the one who covered that case extensively when it happened. So he'll probably be speaking about it at the expo because he was like all the witnesses, all the, airline people and the pilots and da 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 da.
Do you feel like, because I feel like when they put themselves on display like that they're attempting to contact humanity, like they're wanting to make some sort of connection, it would appear, because they could watch from somewhere else. They don't have to watch from 100 feet above the tarmac. So it's like, it seems like that. And then there's the school incidents and a bunch of other incidents where it would appear that they're just trying to make this direct contact. What do you think about that? Do you, obviously it doesn't seem that we're ready for that, but do you think that we are probably missing something as far as we are missing the message? Maybe we're missing the message, but maybe our government isn't, and maybe they're the ones that are stepping in and making the contact moment. Do you feel like any of that is going on?
I feel like these ETs, who are millions of years ahead of us in intelligence, wisdom, and everything, the ones that are coming in close contact to us, who are allowed to, because we're supposedly being protected by whatever, the Galactic Federation, whatever. I think they're doing this to wake us up. They're doing this on purpose, because while there might be, 100 people there who saw that craft or whatever, maybe 90 of them saw it and just thought it was some kind of weird, cool thing. But 10 of them might have had their entire life just blown out of the water and completely changed. So because they can't really interfere too much, obviously, because of the free will that we have, they're just showing up whenever they can. And I do believe it's 100% deliberate.
I just always have asked for that moment where we get, like, for instance, the top CE5 person, which I guess we could probably consider Chris Bledsoe maybe to fill that spot. Then also a top channeler out there, and just have this moment where we get, this done in front of the world all at once at one time. Have you ever thought about that or considered setting something like that up?
That is a brilliant idea. It's awesome. I think even if we did something so major like that, I feel like, since we're talking a lot about the powers that be, I think they will do everything in their power to not let that message go out. They'll create some kind of false flag that'll happen like right during this huge, amazing moment between Chris Bledsoe and Bashar and whatever. They'll create some kind of world crisis that takes everyone's attention off of the awesomeness and the truth and put it on some kind of negative BS. And the messages just go down the tubes. It's happened time and time again when there's been some big, awesome, profound things in the contact world. And then some pandemic will happen or something will happen that will take our mind off of it, get us back into our little shivering human form, and they regain control.
And I feel like that has been the status quo up till now. It just feels like right now that because of this whole thing, that a lot of people are being able to see through the veil now and see the tricks that are being pulled. Like, we know this within this community, that they do this. They'll, sleight of hand, look over there. So we know that they do that. But I think that in this moment, because we're like, everyone is going through it, and I think the world is affected by even what we're going through here in the United States. But
I agree.
It just feels like a moment where people are now being able to see through that trick. And so it would be the perfect time to have an event like that, where you have everyone's attention. They're no longer falling for the look over there. And we're able to sit, do this on a national or a global stage. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like in order to really make some sort of movement or shift within humanity is going to take a moment where we have everyone's attention. And there's only been a couple events like that, like the pandemic. We had everyone's attention. So it'd have been perfect to deliver a message during that time. Then we had everybody's attention again, which I didn't think it would happen that quickly, but during the drone
Oh
situation back
yeah.
in January, where
Right.
everyone's looking at this one thing, everyone is having this fear, they're wondering what this is. So that'd have been a perfect time to kind of inject which kind of it did, the UFO conversation into that. But it's
Yep.
just like, and it just feels like because we're going through this moment as a whole, as humanity, this would be the perfect moment to like do something like that.
I agree with you. I agree. Chris Bledsoe, he's been doing such hard work in trying to get in front of the government. He had UFO sightings with some top dog, excuse me, people right in front of the Capitol building, which got some press and got some, stuff out there. He was just with Sammy Hagar last weekend and then had dinner with Margot Robbie. And I mean, he's trying to, and they're inviting him. They're inviting him to go there. He's going with his wife, and he's showing them what he does. And the method behind his madness is when you get these influencer types, on board and to experience it for themselves. That's the way they're going to deliver the message to the masses, because the government's never going to do it. Never going to do it.
You're saying the same thing. I said that exact same thing. I said it's going to take, or you have someone like a person with 1 million followers on TikTok that can get to 1 million individuals, and if you pick like 10 of the most influential people, you got a good chunk of the population that you'd have their attention. And then also, I'm seeing, which is also a cool thing to see, is that I'm seeing influencers try to take that on right now in this moment where they may have never talked about aliens or UFOs ever to their audience or on their channel, and they're kind of shifting into doing that.
Oh,
and it's like, yeah, it's an exciting thing to see. I'm seeing political channels that are now, kind of delving in a little bit to the UFOs and at least presenting it to their audience. So I think that's a good thing. It's definitely something that we need to happen. But the powers that be, as we'll call them, shadow governments, they want to keep us so segregated and separated that we can never come together and have the moment that we need to have. And that's why it's so important to take advantage, because that structure that they've set up is so strong and has been here for so long.
forever.
There's only so many different things that could break that up or allow the people to break out of that trance for a moment. And it's like events like that are big events. And it's like, even with the 3-Eye Atlas, it turns out to be nothing. It's still something everybody's looking at. And it's like, okay, we have everyone's attention. And I think that's why I applaud Avi Loeb for at least stepping out there, because the story would just be, there's a comet passing by and nothing else to think about here. But at least Avi Loeb took that moment when everyone is looking to say, hey, it could be this other thing though. You know what I mean? And it at least opens that part of people's minds up.
Yeah, I frankly, when I heard that he did say that, I was surprised and very happy. Yes.
Yeah. So, like I said, with all these experiences that you have here, we're trying to get Chris Bledsoe on the show. He did something big that I thought was pretty big when he had this CE5 event at, I guess it was in Washington, D.C. during the the last hearings, and
in front of the Capitol building. Yeah, that's what I was just.
You would have thought that got some sort of press. I don't know how that didn't make news. I don't know what it would have taken to kind of take that to the next level, but he did it right there in front of the government. But I guess they know. I guess it's because they already know. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. But every time we miss an opportunity, it's like, dang, you don't know when that next opportunity would be
going to come. You're right.
So what do you do? What do you do about that?
I think we just need to keep on trucking. We need to keep doing it, and different people, Chris is now, he's had his experiences way back in 2007, but it's only since he wrote his book and maybe the last 5 years or so that he's really getting out there and really, talking to a lot of people. There's always going to be new people coming up, and we just have to reach as many. Again, it's stuff like this. It's stuff what you're doing now through media. You know, one of the things that Sid Goldberg is going to be at the expo as my guest, but he doesn't want to present. But I really want to encourage him to speak about, or even Jimmy could speak about this, or you could speak about this, how media itself is a contact modality. It's what woke me up. Boom, just seeing a silly documentary. But this kind of work where we reach as many people as possible and just plant those little seeds. Some of them are going to grow, some of them aren't, but it's the only way that the job is going to finally get done. I think.
You know what? It's. I appreciate that and opening that up. You know, because I think they're some of the most important voices. You know, may not be these top names. It could be just your average person out there that has thought this through and has some great ideas or some perspectives that will add to the conversation. So I appreciate you even making an offer like that. And I would love to come and say something if I do show up there. If it's just a couple words, that'd be fine with me. I don't have to give a whole speech.
Right,
but
right.
I just feel like everybody has a part to play in this. And it may not be a speaker. I tell people all the time, you're at home, we're doing a lot of this stuff from our couches, from our living rooms, and it's
Right.
like that might be the thing that you could do. Maybe you could just organize something within your little area, within your group of friends, or within your family members, or at least have the conversation, or just bring someone to one of the shows.
Exactly.
That could be the part that you could play in this. And it's just I just want everyone to know you don't have to be this big speaker or have a show or be a
You're
guest in
so
order to
right.
talk.
What you're totally right. And that's what we were talking earlier about me holding the space. I was immersed right after my awakening in CE5, and then had all these great teachers as my best friends, Debs being one of them, Kim Porth, a bunch of people, right? They're all amazing teachers. They dive deep and they teach. And for a while there, I'm like, well, I don't teach. I don't teach. I've got little kids. I've got a business I run. I got all these things, but I'm really passionate about it. But what I realized is that I have a knack for bringing people together, bringing the right people together that are heart-based, love-based, profound in their vein, whatever they're teaching. And that's a really good job for me. And it's an important one. And, just people around me that support my work, that's a really big thing. Just supporting someone who does the work is a huge job, because it lets that teacher, like a Bledsoe or any of these people, it lets them keep going. So no job is too small, like you said. Talking to your friend, talking to your neighbor, having a little book club, or bringing them to a show, all that's huge. Like you said.
Huge. And what would you leave? Like, what type of message do you want to leave, like, the audience with here tonight? Just as far as the phenomena goes, or even the speaking towards the Contact Modalities Expo, either or.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much. I loved being here tonight, Rob. You were great. I love it. It's so much fun.
Sure.
You're such a gifted questioner, interviewer. I would just like to leave everybody with the message that, it is scary out there. It is, can be very, very frightening, but one of the biggest takeaways from this event, and not only from the presenters, but the attendees, of course, is the sense of community that you get when you get yourself out and walk to an event like this in person and meet your tribe. Because so many of us are going through these various stages of awakening and these various stages of, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what's happening with the world. But when you get together with other like-minded people and you really show love and community, that's the answer to all of it. So I urge you, whether it's our event or any event close to you, be with people, because that is what breaks all the barriers, all the boundaries, is that face-to-face, seeing that we are definitely much more the same than different when you're together face-to-face.
Love that. Great way to end it. Contact Modalities XPO.com, guys. It's where you can find Melissa K. Melissa, you've been awesome. Thanks for coming in. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, guys, that is clear. And also conversation with Melissa K. Guys, make sure you show her love. Go over to contact modalitiesexpo.com. We'll be right back after this break. See you in a minute. Welcome back. After hour number 3 right here, Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. Make sure you don't go anywhere. It's going to be a fantastic hour power pack. Drew Banky coming up here soon. UFO and Weird News after, and the Steve Stockton Tells and Told Miss Person Mysteries guys. Let's go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. We are in the third and final hour here, after hour number 3. We want to thank once again our guest, Melissa Cain, UFO contactee, founder of the Contact Modalities Expo. Make sure you check her out, contactmodalitiesexpo.com. And if you missed any of our conversations, it's in the archives, free, youtube.com/the Spaced Out Radio. As we go ahead and get right on into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, because we appreciate and love the fact that he's part of the show. Let's jump right on into it.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Hello, friends. This episode, we're going to be discussing Rocky Mountain disappearance and tragedies. Now, the Rocky Mountains, also known simply as the Rockies, are a major mountain range and the largest mountain system in North America. The Rocky Mountains formed 80 million to 55 million years ago during the Laridimite orogeny, in which a number of plates began sliding underneath the North American plate. The angle of subduction was shallow, resulting in a broad belt of mountains running down western North America. Of the 100 highest peaks in the Rocky Mountains, 78, including the 30 highest, are located in Colorado, 10 in Wyoming, 6 in New Mexico, 3 in Montana, and 1 in Utah. Public parks and forest lands protect much of the mountain range, and they're very popular tourist destinations, especially for hiking, camping, mountaineering, fishing, hunting, mountain biking, snowmobiling, skiing, and snowboarding. Being in the Rocky Mountains have been said to literally make people feel like they're on top of the world, or, as John Denver sang, Rocky Mountain High. Today, though, the breathtaking views and scenic landscapes of this gorgeous mountain range aren't the reason we're bringing you this video. There is something else entirely, and something entirely sinister in what we will be discussing with you today. Bizarre and tragic deaths and disappearances in the Rockies are far too common. And because most national parks don't keep very good records of their missing and deceased, if they keep any at all, we think it necessary to review this information and a few of the very many cases like this. Between 1915, when Rocky Mountain became a national park, and 2015, a total of 344 park visitors have died as a result of accidents, car crashes, heart attacks, and various other reasons. Included in those statistics are 60 stunning fatalities associated with climbing Long's Peak in particular. While, of course, we can't dig into every single one of these tragedies in this short video, let's dig a little deeper into just a few of them. Here are the bizarre and strange deaths and disappearances in the Rocky Mountains. The average age for those that have died on the mountain is 32.5. The oldest person to die was 75 when he slipped on ice along the narrow section of the Kehoe route. There were also 2 16-year-olds that died on that peak, one in 1932 and the other in 1980. A total of 9 victims were teenagers, which represents 15% of all deaths. This data was collected back in 2013, and as you can imagine, at least a few more deaths of teenagers have occurred at one point or another from one thing or another since then. During the first decade of the 21st century, 8 fatalities have been recorded. However, the deadliest decade was the 1970s, when the mountain claimed the lives of 13 people. Mountaineering in particular can be one of the most dangerous outdoor activities one can take part in when out in the Rockies or on any mountain range for that matter. Despite these dangers, however, people have been climbing for thousands of years. It's the perfect thing to do if you have a great love of the outdoors and a spirit of adventure to go along with it. Some have said that while out in Mother Nature, as scenic as the views from so high above the rest of the world are, you start to realize how absolutely insignificant you are in the grand scheme of things. It's very humbling. I reiterate, however, it's also extremely dangerous, and one tiny mistake or misstep can cost you your very life. Take the case of Matthew Burklow, who on June 9, 2014, at around 2 o'clock in the morning, got into his Honda Fit and drove an hour from his home to the Longs Peak trailhead. The 25-year-old hiker planned on summiting the Front Range's most prominent 14,000-foot mountain and returning to Fort Collins in time for his afternoon shift at a King Soopers pharmacy, where he was a certified pharmacy technician. He had his whole life mapped out. He would study physics at CSU and then attend pharmaceutical school. He made the summit, but he unfortunately did not make it off the mountain alive. Matthew Burklow became the 59th fatality on Longs Peak, one of, if not the most deadly peaks in Colorado. Matthew was born and raised in Georgia, but according to his loved ones, Colorado simply stole his heart. He didn't have a cell phone as he believed he had no use for one. He didn't have credit cards either. He was building websites at the age of 8, however, and his family insisted he was a stringent planner in everything he did. So what happened on the mountain? Matthew was an experienced hiker who had recently started ice climbing and had completed the Appalachian Trail 2 years before his fatal journey. His family reported that he was a meticulous planner who treated the mountains with tremendous respect. For months, Matthew had planned the 2,160-mile Appalachian Trail trek from Georgia to Maine, how much food he needed, where he could restock supplies, how many miles a day he could manage, where he'd meet his wife, Haley, who would drive from Tennessee on the weekends with fresh supplies, and they'd spend Saturday nights together. His father said of his son that anything Matthew did, he excelled at, and if he couldn't be the best at it, then it wasn't for him. Back to that fateful day in June 2014. Matthew's extensive planning and collection of the newest and best outdoor gear earned him the trail name Fancy. He climbed the 14,259-foot tall Longs Peak alone in winter conditions that would caution hikers to include crampons, a helmet, and an ice axe. He had indeed packed all those things except for the helmet. After recovering Matthew's body, Rocky Mountain National Park search and rescue rangers investigated the fatal accident, piecing together what clues they had at their disposal. They found photos of Matthew smiling on the summit. After 2 previous unsuccessful attempts, he'd reached Rocky Mountain National Park's highest point and the 14th most difficult 14er, which are peaks 14,000 feet or higher in the lingo of the climbers, among the 54 in Colorado as rated by 14ers.com. Despite the calendar showing the month of June, Longs Peak still exhibited winter conditions. On the evening of June 8th, just hours before Matthew left Fort Collins for the trailhead, Rocky Mountain National Park closed the high-elevation Trail Ridge Road due to it being covered in a new sheet of ice. About a foot of snow covered the trough, the narrows, and the ledges section of the keyhole route. And the home stretch, a steep slab of granite near the summit, had many sections slick with ice. Matthew fell from the ledges section of the mountain, a series of narrow ledges with a drop-off of 2,000 feet or more. Sadly, Matthew wasn't this particular spot's first victim either. He'd already traversed the steep homestretch and the snowy narrows and had nearly reached the keyhole, the final hurdle before the simple scramble down the boulder field. It should have been easy going from there back to his vehicle, but Matthew fell. Perhaps on a slick section of snow or ice, or maybe because of tired legs or a brief second of inattention. He fell approximately 600 feet, and his body was found in a rocky outcropping below the marked section of the trough. Chances of surviving a fall of that magnitude are extremely slim, said Rocky Mountain National Park East District Ranger Mark Pita. Matthew's body was flown to the helipad at Upper Beaver Meadows in Rocky Mountain National Park and transferred to the Boulder County Coroner's Office. Looking back, Perhaps the most famous person to perish on the mountain was Agnes Vail. On January 25, 1925, she became the first woman to climb Long's Peak in the winter. While making her descent along the Keyhole route, Vail slipped and fell about 150 feet. Exhausted and running out of steam, Agnes insisted she needed a short nap, but froze to death before her hiking partner could bring help back. Today, just below the Keyhole, is the Agnes Vail Shelter. Built as a memorial to Miss Vail, the shelter also serves as a refuge for hikers and climbers in need. Another notable death occurred way back in 1889, prior to the park even being established. A man named Frank Stryker was descending down the home stretch on the Keyhole route when a loaded pistol fell out of his pocket and discharged into his neck. Some say this was karma at work, as the 28-year-old was taking pleasure in launching large boulders down the mountain while climbing up himself. The newspaper account at the time said he announced his intentions of sending off a particularly huge stone just before the accident occurred. He continued to cling to life for 10 more hours while his companions attempted to transport him down the mountain on a makeshift litter. He died of his injuries shortly thereafter. Now, there is so much more statistically that we could look at to try and make sense of these senseless tragedies. Even the well-prepared and most obsessive-compulsive have accidents. Nobody goes mountain climbing or hiking expecting to never make it back home to their loved ones alive. Let's discuss some other tragedies, ones that didn't have to do with climbing. There are literally thousands of ways to die on the mountain, no matter what you're doing. Admittedly, however, being in nature and being careless is almost always a recipe for disaster. Being unprepared is also a surefire way to get yourself in trouble out there in the woods. What about the unexplained? This video wouldn't be a complete video if we didn't mention at least one of the more strange and bizarre unexplained deaths that happened in the Rockies. Take the mysterious disappearance of Keith Reinhardt. Keith was a sports reporter at the Daily Herald in Chicago in 1988 when he announced he'd be taking the next 90 days off to fulfill his lifelong dream to spend some time living in the Rocky Mountains. In a letter he wrote to a friend, Keith stated, "I love these mountains and want to live in them before I die." So he took off for Silver Plume, Colorado, a small mining town of 200 that sits inside the Arapahoe National Forest at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. Ironically, and more than just a little eerily, Keith had another reason for wanting to visit this particular tiny little mining town. In addition to fulfilling his one dream, he was also hoping to achieve another. This was to write a novel about the disappearance of Tom Young. Tom was another man who just happened to have disappeared from that same exact mining town, but in September of 1987. He immediately opened an antique store in the building which used to house Tom Young's bookstore. He wanted to get a feel for Tom's life so he could more easily and authentically write about him. Late one afternoon, severely hungover from a previous night of heavy drinking and having fun, Keith Reinhardt went to hike Pendleton Mountain and never returned. More than 100 people logged over 10,000 hours searching and never found a clue as to what had happened to him. Sometimes the answer is there is no answer, Reinhardt's widow, Carolyn O'Donnell, told the Daily Herald in 2008. Sometimes there really isn't. Not that any answer could ever be satisfactory enough, surely, for the deceased person's loved ones. To have to reconcile yourself to the fact that someone so important to you and that you love so much is gone and never to return again must be hard enough. But to have to make sense out of the fact that somewhere so incredibly beautiful, scenic, and mostly peaceful and serene is the cause of that person's demise. It boggles the mind and has to be quite unbearable. So, in closing, make sure when out in the woods, even if you're just camping or if you are hiking, climbing, etc., whether in the national parks or even in your own backyard, that you're well prepared and careful. If you absolutely must go alone, always be sure to tell at least one other person where you're going and when you expect to be back. A lot of people even go so far as to give a time that if they haven't yet returned, that the authorities are to be called. You can find so many safety tips online these days, so please do your own research before going out into the wilderness. So there you have it, folks, just a few of the strange deaths in the Rocky Mountains. I look forward to your comments, but please Keep it friendly and respectful. In the meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other, and I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.
Steve Stockton tells untold Mr. Person Mysteries. Once again, awesome stuff, Steve. Thanks for being a part of the show. We do appreciate that. And yeah, just taking care of each other, man. That's always a good message to end off with. As we go ahead and get ready to jump into our after hours wrap up with none other than the guy that you all know, the guy that you all love, Mr. Drew Banky.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! Get in my belly!
Get down in the north! Get down north! Go it! That man's got north! You're a monster!
Yeah. Yes. After hours wrap up with Drew Banky in the building. Drewski, how you been?
Yo. What a great conversation, huh?
I was going to say the same thing. What an awesome conversation. Melissa came with the Contact Modalities Expo. You were offered a spot there to speak last year, which you went and did. How was your experience there?
It was great. Getting to meet Chris face to face, that was, it changed my perspective of him, what I had. And yeah, I got to, I talked to him. We messaged back and forth pretty often. We just messaged today, just a few hours ago, really. So some of the relations and contact that was there. And just to speak a little bit about weird things that happen around it. Like I got there, so that they the speakers there, that she really takes care of them. She puts them, they all have their own like room or share a room in this hotel. So it's kind of, and the conference is all in the same area. So most of the people are staying on site. And so it's a really nice setup, but the point is they book your room for you. Like you get there and you just tell them you're a speaker and tell them your name, and they have a room already ready for you. My room, like just to start off with, was 1111. So it was right to begin with. It was like signs for me, like this was where I was supposed to be and things like that. And there was other things that happened that was just really cool to witness. There was and to hear Chris tell the story in person, and it was nice to see, and other people too. Obviously I've been around Debs before. I've known Debs and Melissa for about 5 or 6 years. We met around the same time. I was out there leading the retreat for her a while, years back, and that's how we first met. So but yeah, Debs was there, and I attended her presentation and stuff like that, and her meditation, and witnessed her channeling. It was pretty cool, and she's going to be back again this coming year. So yeah, if anyone wants to experience Deb Shakti in person, is going to be a good one. And some of these other names, just to explain, like there's going to be like telepathy tapes, like just to on the other side of that little hand. I think it's I can't read the name, but that's I think that's the mother of the telepathy tapes. And then you have the Dr. Hennessy with the telepathy tapes. Sarah Cosmos is going to be there. There's a lot of amazing headline names, so it's going to be good. And I'm sure Chris is going to share the origin story, how it all happened again in person, so and other things. So, and I'm sure he's going to be doing another Skywatch. I didn't get to experience the Skywatch because it kind of got moved around because of the weather and all that, but firsthand. But yeah, he's been doing it, so, and doing it and proving it. So
yeah, and that's pretty much all you can ask for, right? I mean, when it comes down to this, is show and prove, and hey, let's see the evidence, right? So if he's going out there, he's doing this in front of people, you can't really, what can you say? What can you say? unless it's been rumored, obviously, that Dr. Stephen Greer has gone to lengths as to pre-set up things to happen at particular events. Now, obviously, there's ways that you could go about seeing if that's what a person has done or not. And I would assume that learning from that previous incident, that someone has, I would hope, checked Chris Bledsoe on something like this, made sure that some wasn't put up in the air ahead of time in order to make this sighting happen. But I'm on the team of until I see something that says that he's not doing this, I'm gonna go along with the fact that he's able to call these things in.
Sure.
And here's a lot of people be like, oh well, that's crazy. Why would you just go? You're not even out there to experience it. But at the same time, we understand what consciousness is. We talk about it all the time. We understand that consciousness is something that we experience, and it's very likely what these extraterrestrials experience too, because that's how these connections are being made to begin with. Not just CE5, but even when some people talk about downloads or other scenarios where you kind of just thought it up, or you kind of just connected through your body. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. It's just having those moments, those epiphany moments, and it could be, number sequences. Like I was just talking about, like checking in and it being the room number being 1111, like right off the bat, or other things, I've met Chris in person, and all I can say, like my personal take on it, he's a legit person that had a legit experience. And who am I to question someone's mission here? Maybe his mission is to call these things in and bring attention in it like that, which he's doing. Like he's bringing a spiritual context to it, like a religious or should I go as far to say prophetic, like context to it. And that's it's all positive. I'm telling you, from what every vibe that I got from him, he's a very positive person that's had a profound experience and got asked to do a profound thing. How can I believe that? Because I'm going through it myself. Like I've been given green light to talk about like what I'm going through, openly. I'm going through a very similar thing right now. So I can't like discredit someone else. And plus, like, everything that I've seen him accomplishing, it's all positive. He's bringing a consciousness aspect to what's happening in the sky, and whether it be connected through a spiritual demigod or anything like that. Like it doesn't matter like how the message is, like when you're there, like when you're around him, that he's had a genuine experience. And anyone that's had a genuine experience, he talks about how it was hard for him to tell his story and how he got ridiculed. Man, I like who everybody that's ever had an experience and went to share it, like everyone has been ridiculed by somebody, and it's just so you can relate, and you can feel the vibrations. All I got to say. And yeah, we're in a prophetic time. Like we're going through. There's Native American prophecies that I said that weird. Let me restart. There's Native American prophecies that are unfolding before us, and it is really happening right here in this moment. Like that's all I can say. I was speaking to Chief Bearcross yesterday. And I was sitting at our kitchen table and had the big window looking out, looking at the creek and then our woods that we have. And so one of the spirits that are really connected to the Whippy ceremony and particularly Chief Bearcross is a coyote spirit. And I'm looking out there and I'm not lying. Like I had to look a few times to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing, but it was a coyote walking across right on the other side of the bank along the creek, and he stopped and looked at me. And as I was speaking to Bearcross, and then he kept going. I had to catch him a few times. I got out my phone, tried to get a picture of him. I couldn't get a picture of him, but I was questioning what I was really seeing, man. It was so profound in that moment.
And as we go into break here, we're actually going to break, last break of the night here. We'll come back and have you explain, some people understand what that means to have that coyote take a look at you. So we'll kind of elaborate on that and a lot more after this break here. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We'll be back here with Drew Bank Youth After Hours wrap up and ending the night off with some UFO and weird news. We're going to also talk about Three Eye Atlas when we come back, because there's some weird stuff going on there. Make sure you come back. If you leave, make sure you come right back. Spaced Out Radio. We'll see you back in a minute. All right, we are clear, crystal clear. Yeah, Melissa's awesome, man. Modalities XPO. Like I said, this is far enough out, right? Because I know last time I talked to Debs, we were like promoting the event. It was like gonna happen in a couple months or a month or something like that. Not really a lot of time to prepare, but shoot, we're in November here, so that's a good 6 months out, something like that, 6-7 months. So
yeah,
I really want to attend one of these events and just have that moment to say a couple words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I might try to.
No,
But I
it's
know radio is doing the Vegas thing in May, and I think it's just like it was last time. That was another conflict. It was right during that time, so I got to see when our dates are.
Yeah, it sure was. I remember that. It's because it's that very first weekend in May. So
yeah, to my man, you're right. Debs is the shiznit. She is. That's why she'll be here in 2 weeks. Bringing some really good energy. We need it. It's time for that, and we need an energy shift. And I don't know, we live in our lives and so busy day to day that we don't have time to sit and meditate, as Melissa was talking about earlier tonight. And maybe Debs can she always does, bring some of that positive energy into the building.
Yeah, no doubt. She is she's definitely connected, and it's just what takes me back to what Melissa was talking about during the interview about how and the reason I asked, just a little backstory, the reason I asked that, because I was there and I saw it when it hit her. Like it all come together, and like, because she'd been working on that conference for like a year or so, like Melissa was, and Debs was part of it too. Like Debs helps in the background too a lot, and a lot of other people, but Melissa worked a lot on it. I know for a fact, and to see her go from thinking about, talking about it, and then making it manifest, it was just beautiful to watch it, to know Melissa during that time frame, because I know her when she first talked about that, and it was just a thought, and to see it when it manifested. But I was there to be able to be there at the conference and to see it hit her, that dream become a reality. It was just beautiful to see this. So that's that. I kind of set that question up because I knew like what it all meant, because I got to see it all in the background and everything. But but the little things, meeting Debs like all those years ago, and when I first met Debs, I knew that we'd be friends for life, and I think the very first ceremony that we hosted up there, Melissa had. It was only Hawk at that time. I don't think Ember was even here yet, and Hawk was just a baby, and she gave Hawk a stuffed animal that was an alien stuffed animal that if you touch his toe, his eyes lit up. And they wore that thing out for a long time, and finally the batteries finally went out on it. But the little things that lead up to it, and yeah, man, it just makes me think, like, all the interactions, like looking back what I've said before, like hindsight's 2020. Doesn't that mean that, like, if we see that pattern, if everything like lines up in the background, like in our past, why can't we see that pattern in the future? And like you can start to see it. It takes a while to shift your perception, but you can start to see that perception forward. And I think I think that's what she was touching on a little bit. But that's what I'm working on now, and I'm seeing it, more and more, just with seeing the signs all the time, and even, speaking to Bear Cross, he's talking about, watch the signs all the time. And the more and more I do watch the signs, and this is, you know, quoting Melissa almost verbatim what she said, just watching the signs and following, source or the flow of the universe. The more and more I do that, the signs are all there, dude.
Yeah, I already, man. I'm experiencing things from the outside looking in, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We're on the back half of hour number 3. We are on the home stretch right here with Drew Banky After Hours wrap up. We want to thank our guest tonight again, Melissa Cain with Contact Modalities Expo, for coming in, having an awesome conversation tonight. If you missed it, jump in the archive, absolutely free, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. As we get ready to jump into the last 20 minutes here, guys, we're almost there. As we get back into the conversation. So, one thing obviously you were elaborating over the break on some of the experiences that you had, things you saw when you were at the Contact Modalities Expo. And, I always appreciate and am always impressed and always like to, kind of put in the forefront individuals that you can consider putting together an event like this as a selfless sort of thing. I mean, it's for the right reasons. She saw where she could fit in to making a difference in getting the conversation out there and making sure that there was a place where, all of these different individuals could come deliver their message. And so she plays just as big a part as in any speaker that would show up there. So I always want to applaud that and tell everybody out there, as we said earlier tonight, like everyone has a part to play. It could be very small. It could be, which may seem small, but still at the end of the day, a very big thing to do. And you don't even have to leave your house to do it. But and I implore everyone out there to find something to do. If you haven't done anything, just think about, what could I do to kind of make this thing move forward from where I am, not having the ability to travel across the United States and go to certain things. What can you do from your home? What could you do to make a difference from right where you're at? And, I think it's a really powerful thing. And I would always love to platform individuals like herself and other people who are showing that, are putting effort out there into the world to make this thing happen.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, she's the story of her having, the download, and the balance of praying on it, but also putting in the physical effort to manifest it. And I think that's an important thing to speak on. And manifestation isn't someone wiggling their nose like the old bewitched thing from back in the day. They wiggle their nose and something pops. It doesn't work that way. Like the vision comes, whether it become a dream or a download in meditation or a plant medicine ceremony or whatever. What she touched on all that, but having enough faith in that vision to actually be putting forth physical energy to make it happen. And man, she worked hard at it. Like, she really did. She put in a lot of hours, and like I said, when it finally hit her, seeing Chris and Jimmy up on stage, they did a thing. It was Between Two Ferns, and it was, every seat was taken, and I was standing in the back and watching it. And just to see her look at that, like every seat in the room and everyone standing around the back, like for your first conference, that's a huge thing. And she really went out on a limb and on a lot of things and to make it happen. And it just goes to show, like, and she's reaching a lot of people. That's for whatever your view is on Chris or Jimmy or any of the people there at the conferences, like everybody has different viewpoints, back and forth, whatever. But I can tell you there was a lot of people that went there that had like experiences afterwards, of just the vibe of being there. I did a few things there with pendulums. I had a pendulum and dowsing rod exercise where I did the same thing that I have done on here, where you put the pendulum and the dowsing rod over an object, and the way you speak on it, move it back and forth, use that lighter. Did that same thing in person there, and people were just, really come up to me afterwards and said that really like blew their mind, like that really opened up something in their mind. And that's the whole point of it. Like, and she even spoke on, Melissa spoke on this in her interview, pointing out that this is a conduit too. That's why I spend 3 hours in this room back here, away from my family on the weekends doing this. Like, I don't get paid a dime for it. It's just for knowing that being any part I can do of being a conduit at this point, I need to do, because I know what's happening with me is pretty profound, and pretty soon I probably won't be doing these nightly things, probably within the next year sometime, because I'm going to have to step into a different role soon. But yeah, the coyote is very important. To getting back to what I mentioned before the break about the coyote, the reason the coyote is very important, and I've seen some of the comments, there's people talking about Heyoka spirits and stuff like that. Yes, certain tribes and certain bands do consider the coyote, spider, and owl. They all have different meanings depending on what bands you are or what beliefs you are. But the Ghost Nation, in Lakota, and this is like people that do Whippy ceremonies mostly, and they traced them back, and this was like their band is the survivors from Wounded Knee. So like the massacre at Wounded Knee, they were there, and this is some of the survivors of it. So it's like a medicine band. But they believe the coyote, and this is a story that comes directly from Chief Bearcross, and it was cited publicly on Aubrey Marcus' podcast. So it was nothing that's been said in secret. You can hear it for yourself. But he talks about the coyote spirit and how his teachings from his elders, they talk about the coyote as a savior for the planet. And the reason you hear them howling at night is they're howling to the star people and telling that and letting them know that this rock is still occupied, to not send a big stone. So they say whenever the coyote stops howling, the star people won't know that this rock is still occupied, and they will send a big stone. And that is pretty much a direct quote from what he stated on this Aubrey Marcus podcast. So he said every animal has a certain job and everything like that. And like I said, it can be different depending on what tribe and even what band within a tribe you fall under or believe in or practice under. But yeah, the Wanugi Oyate, that means Ghost Nation in Lakota. They that is the coyote is howling to the star people.
Wow, that is awesome. Always dropping knowledge bombs and appreciate that perspective. You know what I'm saying? Because we always talk about how the Native American perspective is definitely likely one we should be leaning on when answering questions like what is consciousness and what are we dealing with here? What's the actual reality that we should be focused on here on this planet? So it's always awesome to hear that from you and appreciate it. Now, I wanted to get into this real quick before I jump into the news, because there was people are wanting to hear about Three Eye Atlas. There's some weird stuff going on. I know you wanted to talk about that like last week and I'm glad we waited a week, sort of, because it's finally visible again. And let me read this quick story real quick. Astronomers have found a mysterious new object flying between hostile alien threat and Earth. The new object is right in between us and 3i Atlas. So they found another object. They're calling it a companion object. Another object has been found flying between the potentially hostile comet 3i Atlas and our small planet. Like this year hasn't been eventful enough up in space, there's more drama going on. Astronomers have recently found yet another thing floating about, and this too doesn't have the telltale tail of a comet. Say that 3 times. According to the experts, the little thing is zooming between us and something that another scientist has warned could be an alien mothership. Discovered back in July, 3i Atlas was dubbed as being a strange object. Harvard professor Avi Loeb, who claimed that there was 30 to 40% scenario where it could be something other than a naturally formed object. Since then, 3i Atlas has continued on this erratic path deep in space, and we're not going to find out if it's aliens, not for some time. Loeb shared it seems to be behaving rather unusually as it approached the sun, and he went up one step forward by taking aim at NASA over their response to it. Loeb criticized NASA's apparent refusal not to release a series of high-resolution images captured of 3i Atlas in October by a camera on board the space agency's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. However, that's just because of the U.S. government shutdown preventing them from being able to do so. While we can't see the possible alien mothership, we can see the mysterious new object scientists have named C-2025 V1 Borisov. Moving between 3i Atlas and Earth with no tail, the comet was found to be 105 million kilometers away from Earth, or a little under 1 astronomical unit, which is about 5.5 months away. Its closest approach to Earth is thought to occur on the 11th of November, 2025, which is in a few days here, when it passes about 103 million kilometers away from us, which is safe distance away to see it in the sky. While it's only just recently cropped up in the space scene, scientists have confirmed that C-2025 V1 Borisov originates within our own solar system and most likely came from the distant Oort cloud. According to data from JPL's small body database, C-2025 V1 Borisov is following a highly unusual orbit with an eccentricity of 1.0 and an inclination of 112 degrees at present. This means it's traveling along a steep, elongated trajectory around the sun and will reach the closest point to the sun, perihelion, on November 16th. Now, if you want to see it in the sky, just know that Borisov's light takes nearly 6 minutes to reach us, and the comet rises at 4:01 a.m., peaks at 10:01 a.m., and settles at 4:03 p.m. See, if you want to see it, you make sure you're there on time and looking from under clear skies. So 3i Atlas has this companion object. What do you think about it? Is this aliens? Is this companion object? What do you think about that? Just hearing that news after all the other anomalies we've heard up to this point.
Well, a few things. One, this is the first I've heard about it. Two, who picks out those names? Three, if this was a movie trailer, I would definitely watch the movie.
Because you probably should, because and here's the thing, Avi Loeb has gone throughout this time and he hasn't went as far. He's always stayed right at that line and said, okay, it could be something weird, likely it's just something normal and natural, but then he says, okay, and there's been 3 anomalies. Next, a week goes by, okay, there's a 4th anomaly that just doesn't make sense about this thing. We're all the way up to like the 10th anomalous action that this thing has done that is not normal or natural when you compare it to other comets that have come through our thing here. So it's like, okay, at this point, NASA needs to release the images. Apparently, Kim Kardashian is trying to step in and help get NASA to prompt them to go ahead and release the images. I'm wondering why they just don't do it and kind of just squash the conversation. It's going to be clear what it is in that image, I'm sure. And they've been saying behind the scenes, NASA has been saying it's nothing to worry about. It's just,
Yeah.
we hear all this noise everyone's making about it. And from what we have seen, it doesn't line up with any of that. It appears to be a comet. Okay, well, let's see the images.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Kim Kardashian for her work for humanity. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's I do know there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Like there's a lot of people praying in the background, man. And there's like especially there's keep coming back to it, but the Native American community, not just in and if you're on my socials and stuff, I posted some videos of some Brazilian elders that are in our neighborhood right now. And yeah, everybody's praying on a large scale right now, and it's it's very interesting to be on both sides of it, being seeing the mainstream and seeing the chitter chatter on both sides of it, and it's all talking about the same thing of a big moment coming. And there's a lot of people getting ready for it, and there's a lot of magic happening that I've been witnessing. I'm sure other people have. I know you touched on it a little bit, of just weird things happening. It seems like we're coming to a crescendo on it. And yeah, who knows what these, if they're rocks, if they're spaceships. Like I said last weekend, regardless, they're opening up channels inside people's brains and beings, regardless of what they are, because they're opening up questions of possibilities.
And let me go ahead and answer this here, because I know NT Gangster was one that was asking about this earlier. He says, seems that they're pushing an agenda, interstellar spaceship, et cetera, et cetera. And then also asked, like, who else buys what Avi Loeb says? And I said, the thing is the thing to take away, I think, is that putting this aside, we already know we have other things that are here in our sky now, that are here right at this moment, that aren't from here. So because of that, that allows us to take that next step further and say, wow, this is a weird thing coming in from deep space. And based on the fact that we know these other things are here, we have to at least give this thing space to flush out to be whatever it is. So I don't know if I don't think there's an agenda behind it at all. I just think it's really responsible thinking, a responsible way to approach this, knowing that we have already this phenomena here we don't understand. And then if this was any way related to it, 5 kilometers long, it should be something to be concerned about until we know it's not, that it's something natural. So it's definitely something you should keep on your mind. No one's going to know exactly what it is until we see it and get, physically see what this thing is. NASA, I think, as far as anybody, probably knows more, obviously, because they have the best photograph. But the thing is that, even with that photograph, it's come back from around the sun now. So now we're going to be able to track it at different stages, at least through, I think, March of next year. So we're going to have other people who have opportunities to see if what the data NASA releases is correct or not, or if they're trying to run some sort of play. I think we'll know for sure by March of next year.
Yeah, I know. Last things I heard about it, it changed speed and changed direction a little bit. And I know there's some type of date coming up, which is 2 weekends from now, which is when I will be setting again with Chief Bearcross. Will be 2 weekends again from now. I'm traveling to go meet him again. So it's that weekend come up, but there's also it's said, like, its current speed and approach and everything, if it were to make an approach at Earth, it would come around December 29th or something like that, which it's just ironic. It would be because nobody's going by calendars, where there's only a small group of humans that's actually going by, a 12-month calendar. This, like, it's not a worldwide thing. The world the world of humans doesn't even agree upon it. So why would anyone else? But it's just weird how things like line up and dates line up and stuff like that. So it says December 29th, but it could change a little bit, and it could be New Year's. And what's everybody do at New Year's? They let off fireworks. So it'd be like a grand arrival if it did come like at around New Year's over New York City. That would be like an Independence Day type display. It'd be crazy. So who knows what we're in store for? Is it connected consciousness? 100%. How is it? I don't know. Like, what's that look like? I don't know. But yeah, we're in some amazing times, regardless of what Three Eye Atlas is or any parts or anything that's accompanying it. We're in amazing times regardless. I can guarantee that.
Facts, and we're gonna have we should be having Sir Brian Bowden here for tomorrow's conversation. So this is gonna come back up because it's definitely something that I want to get his perspective on as well. So we'll be continuing Three Eye Atlas talk tomorrow night. So make sure that you're here for that. So because it's weird and we just don't know what it is. Hopefully, the shutdown ends and we NASA then is allowed to go ahead and show us this photo, because according to Below, they should be able to show it to us now. But they're NASA standing behind the shutdown saying that's the reason they can't show us. I guess
what does one have to do with that? That's ridiculous. What does one have to do with the other? That's just obvious thing.
See, that's what makes that's what breeds conspiracy theories when you do stuff like that. I mean, why would you just not release the information? Forget the shit shutdown. It has nothing to do with the other. He even said the person that's working on this at NASA isn't even employed by NASA, so he's not even affected by the shutdown. So they should be able to release the information. So, but we'll talk more about this tomorrow. I do have a last question for you, Drew Banky, before I let you go here. This is Tomothman was asking, will Drew be attending Contact Modalities next year?
I don't have any plans right now, so I don't have any plans at the moment.
All right. Well, we're going to get ready to shut this thing down. Appreciate you, Drew Banky, with that hour's wrap up. Also, Melissa Cain. Talk to you tomorrow, sir. See you right back here, same time, same place.
Night, brother.
All right, man. Take care. Guys, Drew Banky with the after hours wrap up. We're getting ready to bring the ship on home right now. Once again, I want to take a step back. I always like to thank everybody that has come on into the show, whether you're listening out there on radio or if you're here in person tonight live. We do appreciate everyone coming together, because this is how we move the needle, having these type of conversations, getting together, bumping ideas off each other. Because why? Because no one knows the answers. And once again, if you ever come across someone that appears or comes across as if they know the answers, then you probably should be going the opposite direction, right? And I think we should really be focusing on it. I think the main thing we should be focusing on is the fact that we know these things are here, right? Leaning on some historical cases where we know contact has occurred, going as far as saying where they're from or what, specifics that may not be pertinent to the current conversation. I think we could leave out for later, right? Let's focus on the fact that they're here. But once again, I definitely want to thank Melissa Cain coming on in with the Contact Modalities Expo being awesome. And we want to thank Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Mr. Person Mysteries. We want to thank Drew Banky, as always, coming in with the After Hours wrap-up. We love his perspective. We also want to thank the man that you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Dahl, because he is the one that brings us in each and every weekend, telling us to never say never again, because we know the phenomenon is real. Definitely. That means anything and everything underneath that is possible. If you love the show tonight, make sure you show your love by hitting the like button, letting us know how you felt about that. Also, we want to thank our viewers online and listeners on terrestrial radio and digital platforms from whenever and wherever in the world you may be listening from. Make sure you throw your horns up. We appreciate you tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, this show is copyright Spaced Out Radio and SR Media Ventures Limited. It has been a pleasure once again serving you as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, this is not a goodbye nor farewell. However, you can best believe we'll be right back here doing the same thing, same time, same place. We hope to see you right here with us. Much love. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And we'll see you soon. All right, we are clear. Awesome stuff tonight, guys. Appreciate you all coming on in. You know how we do this. We're not going to waste so much time here. Let me go ahead and check the chat for a moment here. Remove that. All right. Let's see. Mustard, ketchup, and mayonnaise saying, how's it going, brother? Are you ending? I missed it. You all did just miss it. You're coming in from Twitch as well. So we do appreciate you coming on in. No, but guess what? The archives are free here. So this show you could watch totally free. Rewind the show. Was definitely an awesome one. We're going to have another one tomorrow. And once again, let me, while I have you, let's go ahead and talk about the schedule here because I see some new names out there. You have come in tonight on the weekends here at Spaced Out Radio. We do the After Hours Radio Show, which is this show right here. Saturdays and Sundays from 7 p.m. starting at 7 p.m. Pacific is when you'll catch this show. Also, earlier tonight or today on Saturdays, you'll catch Dirty Phil with Cryptic Cartoons, Saturdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. You got Dave Scott, the conductor of the Woo Train, who runs the show Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. You got Lee Strauss with Element 115 on Fridays at 8 p.m. Pacific. And I believe we're still doing UFO Max. I think Grant has been on a little break, which normally it airs Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific. And so 7 days a week, you can find something awesome right here to watch at Spaced Out Radio. Also, I have a personal channel. Would love to see you guys come over and show some love over there, which is youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G, just like it shows right here on the screen. Right. I guess it's over there. youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G. We would love to have you come over there and also be part of the conversation there as well. So once again, it has been a pleasure talking to you guys tonight, hanging out, and we're going to get up out of here. We want retribution. That's how we bring the show in, and that's how we shut the show down. And that's what we're going to do right now. You guys go out and do something fun. You still got time to do something cool tonight. So I'll check you guys out tomorrow. Take care of each other.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience for your love with